All right, hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Sackdown. Today we have Content King Zven, and that's all he'll be doing for the next 4 months is making content because this year has ended for him. He was talking about it earlier, ending kind of early. But we have one question that needs to be answered. We're shooting this on a Monday right after 100 Thieves has just been eliminated from play-ins, the most disgraceful showing that's ever happened in the history of North America, which I didn't even know was possible. So, Zven, why did you let this team go internationally from North America? Like, what's going on here?
I'm just forgotten, bro. I'm not in Zven, bro.
Yeah, but, I
I'm
mean,
not
why?
responsible.
But no, you let them through, bro. I watched the series. No, don't try to get out of this one. I watched that fucking series that you played versus them.
It was not my fault we lost. Let's be real.
Who made the Baron call?
Fair.
Just air it out, bro. Like, who made the Baron call?
I don't think the Baron call was that bad. I think we just played the Baron like.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
bro. Go watch the Baron fight
Yes.
right now. Like, put it up on the screen. Like, it was not an issue with the call.
Get hit by like Lilia E and shit. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like
crazy, bro.
it's like I think everyone just played it as bad as possible. Like, Scar took a lot of damage for no reason. Yasuo Q'd twice for free. And then we hit like a 3-man Lilia E in the sleep, and we got hit by everything. It was just a disaster, bro.
The Mikhails as well. No Mikhails on the sleep, the Mikhails on the knockup. That was a classic. I reviewed it many times. For me, it's,
I mean, like game fives that are like long series, like 40+ minute games, just end up being like that, where like the 5th game is either a complete stomp or like the lowest elo shit you can ever imagine, and that was just what it was. But like, back to the main point, Flaming Heart Thieves.
Yep.
I think this is on C9.
It's on C9. Okay, so you don't take responsibility at all.
No, this is all on C9, bro. No, no one is saying Dig lost to this, right? Like, I was going to Twitter, right, when they had been lost, and it was all like, haha, C9 lost to this, right? No one says Dignitas lost to this, right?
Doesn't that make you feel worse though? That like they're like, man, Dig is not even better than 100 Thieves. Dig might legitimately just be worse than 100 Thieves. Doesn't that make you feel worse?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But I think I don't know. It's like it's weird, right? Like, we're like 100 Thieves beat C9, but I think C9 would never lose to R7, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's
like
fair,
it's like one of those like weird situations where like even though C9 lost to 100 Thieves head to head, they would still have done better at Worlds. But obviously, it's not how it works. It's just sad in a way, right? But then again, like C9 obviously didn't lose because they're like the worst players. They lost because like they have like massive issues. It looks like, at least.
Yeah. It looks like there's definitely massive issues over there. I mean,
looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think more specifically, the reason why it sucks so bad to watch 100 Thieves lose like that is because I actually don't even believe that 100 Thieves is like a worse team than R7. Like, I don't feel like when they played that series that like 100 Thieves is just playing at their best and R7 is just too good for us. It always feels like for some reason there's a tragedy in North America where when we're underdogs, we can't use the fact that we're underdogs to like hype ourselves up or have like some mentality going into the match that allows us to overperform, like, oh, there's nothing to lose, like this type of mentality. But then when we're favorites, we also somehow play like scared, like being a favorite and being like a more solid team is not an advantage in a way either. So when I watch the 100 Thieves series, I just feel like if we just sucked that bad, it wouldn't hurt as much. But watching the way that we like throw this game, like going Baron over Soul, shit like this. I mean, Quid is
that was most people. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Quid is a person who is like the best player on the team or the second best player on the team. This guy was a fucking MVP. This is what I was saying. This guy was a fucking MVP of our league, and he's going 0-10 on Vex in international stage, like versus an LLA team. I just can't believe that is actually our best performance that we could deliver. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but to me, it did feel like 100 Thieves, like underperformance, not really the fact that they are just this fucking bad.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's like I thought 100 Thieves was trash when I played against them.
Mm-hmm. When you were losing the games, like you were like, damn, these guys suck.
When we lost the first time, even after I lost, I thought these are terrible. And I lost to them that series 3-0 and lost to them again. And I thought both times that they're terrible. And I thought C9 was gonna like herb stomp them 3-0. Like I was like, they don't even play the same game as C9 plays. Even after C9 lost to them, I thought, wow, that's crazy. Then FlyQuest played against them, and it went exactly how I thought it would. Because 100 Thieves isn't actually a good team. They just have like a few good elements that managed to carry them that far, while every other team was either imploding or just not good enough. Like
Which
Dignitas
one
and
was
C9.
which one was you guys?
I
What
think I think we can. This is like a different topic, but I think C9 obviously imploded because they kicked 2
Yep.
players a week after they lost,
Mhm.
which you don't do normally. You jail them or pay them until off-season starts, and then you transfer or whatever. You don't fire 2 people publicly like that after 1
Mhm.
week, unless there's like massive internal issues, right? I'm guessing here. But
Yeah,
then for us, I
supposedly.
just think like it took us so long to agree how to play the game. We had too much difference of opinion. One guy wants to play 3 lanes every game. One guy wants to play 2 lanes every game, and they can't really like agree on it. It takes too long to get together. Also, no one in our team had played together before besides me with everyone. Like I played with Jensen, xPeke, Isles, and Licorice all on different teams. But besides me, no one had any experience together, right? Well, Thieves had 4 people playing together for almost a whole year. Besides Tomo, right? But AD carry is like the most plug and play role in the game. Like you could easily just have like a guy who doesn't speak one word of the language playing ADC, right? It's easy because that
Mhm.
role doesn't have to communicate that much.
Yeah. Yeah, they could still even ruin the team without speaking the language fluently. It's fucking crazy what can happen with that role.
Yeah, I
But
guess you have some experience with that.
oh no, just it was hypothetical, just
Oh,
throwing that
okay.
out. Yeah, like just try to try to back your point of the
But
not speaking the
yeah,
language.
I think our biggest problem was that we didn't agree on how to play, and then we were just really inconsistent. Like at our best, we took games up C9, which actually beaten C9 in our first series after split against them. We were ahead in multiple games, and then against TL, we should also have won. I think game 3, we threw it away. So many games against those good teams, and then we got stomped by like Shopify, right?
Yep.
Um, issues being consistent, and a really big disagreement on how to play meant that it took us so long to actually improve on the game because we didn't even agree on like how to fundamentally play the game. And everyone on our team, besides Isles, has won the LCS at least once. So everyone agreed that the way they thought about the game was correct, me included, right? So it's hard to argue like, oh, Jensen, you went to MSI and you went to finals of LCS in spring. So obviously he thinks he's right, and how he's playing. And I'm like, I won LCS last year and I was in finals in spring and the Worlds in last year. So like, I think I'm right too. And everyone else has their own like, oh, Lakers was at MSI last year too, and it was in spring finals too. So like, everyone thinks what they're saying is right, and it just took us like until we lost to 100 Thieves in playoffs, 3-0, to really like, what the fuck? We're actually really bad, and then someone has to compromise.
Bro, you should have just came on the sack. We would have told you. We would have told you like 3 weeks before that. Like we had your back, man. Like
I mean, there's obviously like more to it than that, right?
okay. Yeah.
But that's like the PR answer.
The
I
PR
see.
answer.
Yeah.
Yamato, go ahead. Before we jump into Dignitas, what was your opinion on the 100 Thieves situation?
Just 100 Thieves. It's so poetic that they
Poetic.
did the biggest upset ever in North America, and then they followed it up by giving one of the best, like biggest upsets ever by letting Latam like win a best of 3, and then it's so poetic in a way. I thought the 100 Thieves was probably one of the worst teams ever coming out of a major region, but not bad enough to lose against R7. It was a fair play
But
to
do you really
R7. Like
think that's surprising that they lost though?
I
Because
thought it was really surprising.
if someone asked me, do you think Huskies could lose to like R7 or something? I'll say yeah, I think so. I
I
think
just
it's entirely possible that
maybe
they could lose.
my fault. It's like I come at it from a position of sorry, this door being open really bothers me. I come at it from a position of R7. Like I know nothing about the region, right? It's just a question of like regional strength, right? I think that's the main thing. Like I do think the Kaine and Summit like had like good games, and I think there was like ways to maybe pacify in terms of how they play. But in terms of the the grandeur of like Latam winning a best of 3, that in my mind was something that would like never like was something that I would never perceive. I figured that Quid and River is going to be able to
Yeah,
drag
I
the
agree.
team, but in the right direction
I
than
thought they
what
would win
Quid
too,
did.
but I thought they would win too against LAN, but I wasn't surprised that they lost to PSG and didn't make it out of the
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 That one is
like.
fair, yeah.
If you had to choose between like PSG, MDK, and like 100 Thieves, I would choose 100 Thieves to lose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
I thought they would beat Pain, but I think Pain actually played kind of decent.
Mhm.
But like I wouldn't be surprised, like before the tournament started, that someone told me like Hunters wouldn't make it out of play-ins because they
I
have
would have been
like so
surprised
little
if
experience too.
I would have been surprised, and I think that like a lot of people are having the opinion that it was supposed to happen because we're seeing it right here. But if you look at the strengths of play-in teams, I mean, you don't need to be better than GAM. You don't need to be better than PSG. You don't need to be better than Mad Lions. Their
Yeah,
pathing could have easily just been beat
pathing.
LLA and then beat CB LOL, and then that would
Yeah,
be
I mean
their
that
pathing to
I
get out of play-ins.
I
Like
agree that
top
they should definitely beat those regions and
and
teams.
like Vikings, like SoftBank Hawks. Like I watched some SoftBank Hawks in PCS. I wasn't impressed at all by them. Like the Vietnamese second seed, this Vikings team literally had negative macro. So you actually only need to be better than SoftBank Hawks, Vikings, R7 and Pain, and you make it out. And it's not like they even got fucked with the bracket where they would have ended up having to play against Mad Lions twice or like Mad Lions and PSG. They had an
Yeah.
easy run to make it. I mean, all they had to do is beat R7. So for me, when I'm looking at the team, I thought that they're the things that 100 Thieves was good at domestically. Like when they beat C9, it's not like they have really insane macro. It's not like they're doing lane swaps or they're doing anything that requires insane amounts of intelligence. They were just a pretty good skirmishing team. Like Quid has good mechanics. River takes generally good fights. I feel like if you get Sniper in a fight and he's not down a bunch of gold, he understands how to play fights. Tomo is consistent on all of his picks. I mean, he had the domestically he was able to play Ziggs like almost every single game. He was one of the few players that could play Kaisa. He had the ability to play like Varus, Jin, like all these types of picks, Ash. And I thought that would be enough to get out of play-ins. So for me, I do think it was like a pretty big upset because you don't expect these teams like from LLA, Brazil. I mean, we saw LLA versus CB play against each other, and I've watched a ton of Brazil, the entire region. I co-streamed like almost all the playoff games that Pain played, and they make all these consistent macro mistakes. So it feels like when you play against these teams, you're going to have chances. You're going to have chances to outhand them. You're going to have chances to fight. And even in the game 3 that 100 Thieves lost, they had all these opportunities to win. And it's just like Quid is having the worst game of all time, like probably his worst game I've ever seen him play. And then they're also just making like whack 100 Thieves decisions late game on top of it. So I don't actually give them the pass. I think other people give them the pass, like, oh, they're third seed from North America, like whatever. It's like, no, this is a historic failure. Like to me, this is something that was noteworthy to actually lose. And yeah, I think that they deserve to be criticized for it. I don't think that it's one of those things where they get through or they lose and it's like, oh, they're a young team, whatever. It's like, even if they are a young team, number one, they're not that young. Tomo's been playing competitive for like 4 or 5 years. River is a mega veteran. They have like 2 players that are young, right? And those 2 players are actually like, the people that were essentially the stars of the team are like 2 of the better players on the team.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I don't give them the pass as much as other people.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hunt Thieves is just a very one-dimensional team.
Mhm.
The only thing they're good at is fighting, and they're very unified as a team. They have that
Yep.
going for them, while some teams are very split, like Dignitas or like
Mhm.
C9. You can obviously tell in the game there's a massive disconnect between players. One guy's doing something stupid, one guy's doing something else somewhere, and it looks terrible. But I think they're just limited in their playbook. They aren't very good in lane, I think. Top especially has a champ pool issue. He couldn't play Rumble the whole year in playoffs.
Mhm.
I think he's kind of like a Cassante Renekton merchant, to be honest. He's talented, I agree, but you can't always just rely on playing like, Camille or Jace or whatever he's good at. So I think that's an issue. I think they're way too reliant on fighting objectives early game. And if the enemy team has an advantage at Grubs or at Drake, they kind of like just fall apart a little bit if they aren't like getting the game to be opened via like a Grubs or a Drake fight. That's how I see it. So
Yep.
like if you go into mid game and you're better, you're not behind by a significant amount, they kind of just don't play that well at that part of the game. They kind of
Yep.
rely on getting a scrap or a grub fight in the early game to
Yeah,
win, right?
they
And
just
they're
like
also a very bad intel team, I think,
they
which doesn't
just
matter that much now. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no. I just want to say like they're a team that just knows how to press buttons on the same target, but how they get there
Yeah,
is completely random. It's like really, really,
yeah,
really
I
random.
agree. Yeah,
I wanted us to move on because like in my mind, I think at least from what I see like public discourse surrounding you, I think you are very, very underrated in terms of what you have like accomplished like as an AD carry and like as a support too. Like your career is one of the most comprehensive and really, really like most impressive, especially coming from me, knowing like competing against you when you were in G2. Like I think there's like 3 AD carries that are like on the Mount Rushmore. We don't have a fourth, sadly. It is like Double Lift, Reckless, you, and then like the argument was always like at some point you guys were like the best Western AD carries. You set the bar. I'm curious because always in the evolution, I feel like somewhere along the line there was an evolution in how people played AD, in how the game kind of changed. Because in the past it was very much it's like you get 1 item, 2 items, 3 items, and then if Zven had 3 items and you played against him, you would just fucking lose the game. Or it was the same when Reckless was at his peak, Double Lift as well. It was very streamlined how it was played. Now with the changes, you coming back to AD carry, what were some things that you recognized were different, or did you feel like it was a different at all for you, or did you feel like you were in tune because you were playing support this entire time?
I think like the better people get at the game, the more they realize AD carry is more than like it's like back in the day, AD carries could easily 1v9 a game, like actually 1v9 games when they got items. They were actually just one-shotting everyone with 3 attacks, right? Nowadays, it's like the better AD carry doesn't always win. It's like in season 4 or 5, the better AD carry almost always won, unless there's a massive team gap, right? But nowadays, it feels like you can have like a 10 out of 10 AD carry, but if his teammates are like significantly worse than their opponents, you won't carry a single game. And you will watch a worse player than you beat you every game because his team is better than yours. Because there's so much more to the game now, whether it's like you could this year, for example, I was triggered about this earlier actually this season because if you lose in lane, just walk the grubs.
Yep.
It's so unskilled. And then if you give the first grubs, then the guy's on 10 CS. On next grubs, he runs there again and goes top tower and takes the whole tower in 1 minute because he has 6 grubs. So you're forced to like fight no matter what you do. Whereas like in the last year's meta, you could like at 8 minutes the Herald spawn, right? You could just give up the Herald for like 2.5 plate spot and it'll be worth it every time. Because plates are worth more gold and your AD carry will actually carry that way. But now it's like you're just forced into fighting either the Drake or the Grubs all the time. So you can't like beat the other guy. And then if you don't have that happening in game, you have a lane swap happening in the game. So no matter what you do, there's so much less AD carry versus AD carry skill expression in the game. And then at the highest level, like when you watch like a good team fighting team like 2023 JDG, you realize how much people like 269 do for their AD carry and how like
Yeah.
yes, Ruler was the best AD carry at Worlds, in the world at that year, almost the whole year. But let's not pretend that people like 269 don't create a crazy amount of space for the AD carries to actually do their thing. And you watch another team where the K'Sante is like flanking the enemy team. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
people just realized, especially in Asia, how OP the AD carry role is and how they treat the role is different. It's like if you play Korean solo queue as an AD carry, you'll realize the moment you hit like 600-700 LP, like the pro player territory, people treat AD carries like the president. They ping the towers for you to take the plates. They want you to take the plates solo. They want to give you every wave they can. They want to defend you from everything the whole game. While if you're playing like EU or NA, it's like you
Even
have
all
like
the way
these.
up, like the jungle's the carry, bro. In NA,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the jungle. Like if I go to fucking lane, I'm like pushing the wave with the AD carry. I'm taking like cannon. Like it's
Yeah, it's true. Like people treat the role differently in EU and NA, which is why it's so hard for me to climb in NA playing ADC. You have to play like some sort of like 1v9 role because you're supposed to pick Sona or Soraka, no matter what you do, right? Right. Meanwhile, in Korea, it's all like meta champions every game.
Yeah.
So the AD carry role feels a lot worse to play in solo queue, but in pro play, I think just the more the role evolves, even though your role is strong in pro play, it feels like if how do I say this? If the enemy team's players are better in like jungle and support and stuff, AD carry feels hard to play
Yeah.
compared to
Just have
the
no
the old
agency really in
days.
the role,
Yeah,
right?
like in season 5, 4, AD carries were like just 1v9ing every game,
Yep.
no matter what happened in the game. They go 1v9 if they got the items and had
Yeah.
a good champion in the game. Nowadays, it feels like you cannot 1v9 the game unless your teammates are also humans.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes you can. Not saying you can never, but that's the biggest thing for me. And it's like all the grubs, the drakes and stuff are just too important. So it feels like there's a lot less like individual laning phase skill because you can get bailed out by so many things like lane swaps, having TP as 6, or like forcing the grubs. And if you don't fight them, then they have 6 grubs and they just one-shot every tower. It feels like there's less individual prowess or like
Yeah.
ability to show yourself. Yeah.
And I get what you mean because I can think from like the perspective of an AD carry a lot of the times when you're laning. If old AD carry used to be like, oh, if you want to trade, you can force them to take a bad base, and then if they take a
Yeah.
bad base, you're like up one more item, and then you can just like you can essentially just grow your lead very consistently. But it feels like there's so many things in the game that they can just do to break that situation. It's like they just
Yes.
run top, and suddenly you're like, oh man, like now I have to try to match all these extra parts of the game, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing because I feel like the game did kind of stagnate in a while. And especially if you think about like the metas that we were in where it's like Ashe support and all this stuff, like everyone was playing so hard to fucking win lane because it was like if you just picked one of these things like Ashe, the other AD carry just couldn't lane and then you just win the game off of it completely. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I do understand the frustration when it comes to like the AD carry just always dodging lanes because it used to not always be good to split the map. If you split the map and you were doing it off tempo and you were behind, it was like you were just kind of fucking yourself. But now it feels like your tempo doesn't matter because if you do get the grubs, then that kind of like that swings the tempo back into your favor. So I think that it's definitely an interesting proposition.
Yeah, it felt like last year at Worlds, at 8 minutes, if you're losing bot hard, you go to Herald, you get the Herald, you trade towers, but then the animated carry who's winning lane gets 5 solo plates.
Yeah,
And
he
first
gets
tower
solo
probably.
experience on the waves
Yeah,
normally.
and solo wave everything. While the animated carry has to share the Herald gold because the jungler used the Herald top, right? At least that way, you got a lead from that happening. But now it's with grubs, they just go top and one-shot the whole tower. And it's like, it feels so unskilled that they can just do that. And the support players will also just run to the grubs at 6 minutes. So then in these games, you can't fuck the other guy up. Whereas beforehand, if you got a good trade lane, you would have a jail on that guy until he left lane. So you just hit him in his tower until he either bases and takes the one wave loss, or until he dies. There was no like mercy back then. Of course, no one wants fucking like double Hail of Blades 80 carries with barriers and the Spectral Sickle, but that was a dog shit meta. I agree. I enjoyed it because I was playing it as an 80 carry playing a support player. Right? It was good for me, but it was a complete dog shit game. Like this meta of like Ashe 80 carry with Ashe support with barrier, Hail of Blades it was so unskilled and unfun to play against. So I don't want that back, but it would be nice if it felt like winning lane actually mattered a little bit more. That's the biggest thing for ADC. And I feel like a lot of time you just lane, you have to go even because grubs and drakes are more important than your CS lead. And then you go into mid game, you sit mid and you farm minions until the bear team wins. You kill 6 minions and then I have no vision. Time to go to my tower and I'll tap until next wave. And then you do it again. And you just hope at some point the support and the jungler and all the soulers with TP and movement come to your lane, get wards, get control. Oh, nice. This game I'm just gonna push mid and run top and dive someone because I'm winning. But like, there's not a lot of agency for AD carries in pro games. It feels like right now, unless your team is better. Even watching like Worlds right now, it confirms my theory that like a lot of games, both AD carries are just 0-0-0 with 10 plus CS5 minutes. Then they go mid, and then the better team wins.
Yeah, I
Unless
mean,
there's a massive gap in lane or something, but it's very rare these days.
Even watching some of the bad teams, like you'll have Easy Love from Gam, and he'll just make the most noob. I don't know if you watched the first game that they played versus the Hawks, but he literally just made like the most noob mistake ever. Like his support is just going to ward, and then he just stayed in lane and just died 1v2 to like the enemy support. And like it doesn't actually end up mattering because he does swap top, and then in the swap the enemy support ends. His jungler gets 2 kills, and then Levi just carries like the entire game from that point. So I definitely do understand what you're saying, and it kind of just makes me think that there'll always be a gripe because right now I would say like jungle is the OP role. Like it feels like jungle is a lot more OP, maybe a little bit less in competitive, but at least in solo queue when they added more experience back. But like for a jungler's perspective, it's like the problems that I have or that I see is like it feels like you almost don't have agency when your role is super strong, and it's like okay, I'm gonna full clear and the other guy's gonna full clear, and then if like my team just insta a free kill and I don't get a free kill, I'm just behind and I just have to full clear again. Like you'll always have problems within your own role because there's always gonna be some aspect that just feels really unskilled, I think.
Yeah, I think the season 14 AP jungle meta is like one of the biggest fiascos of the jungle changes ever. It's like you just have to full clear 6 camps in a straight line, no
Yep.
matter what. There's no
Yep.
alternative. If you don't do this, you're just griefing. And
Mhm.
if you don't do it and you don't kill someone and their jungler does it, you lose 2 crabs, you're down 3 to 4 camps of tempo, and now he just runs the whole game with faded ashes. It was so unskilled and unfun. And the champions that I ever played were like, in lack of a better word, just cancer to play against because
Yeah.
Brand, Syra,
Lyra.
Lilia hit you with one spell, proc Vet Smite, proc what's it called, Liandry's Rylai's, and you're just slow for like 20 seconds. It felt so trash to play against. I think jungle and competitive play is actually like in a pretty bad spot, like in terms of like how it feels to play. I don't think they have agency, but it feels like a trash role for a
Yeah,
long time, last couple
it just
months.
feels boring. I mean, when I think about other metas, like when I watch pro play, what I want to see is I want to see people play things that they're actually good at and see like skill between the roles. Like that's what I really like. I don't like
Mhm.
metas where people are just both like kind of AFK and just doing whatever. And the thing that I really hated about like the Zyra brand meta is like these like no one's fucking good at Zyra that plays jungle. Like you just get so far ahead because you clear so fast that the other guy can't do anything. But there's not even that much skill to Zyra. I mean, you're literally just putting plants from like fucking 1 million range and just poking them like one red smite proc with fucking Rylai's Leandre's
Comet,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, Comet, like all this type of shit. Like it
Liandry's,
just
yeah.
when I watch jungle, I want to see, the best fucking Lee Sin in the world versus like the best Elise in the world. And I want to see like the skill matchup and like the mind games of like, oh, where are they going to path based on like which lanes are strong, like which camps are they going to skip, like this type of
Yeah,
mentality
I
around
agree.
jungle,
I think
like
season
finding
9 was
creative
pretty
angles to
fun.
gank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But season 9 was pretty fun. But it's like
Yep.
we've had some real, like I'll just use Zven's word, cancer metas. Like 2018, like the crab level 3 meta
Oh, that
into
was
gank.
oh
that
my
This
god,
was
bro. Like I don't know.
Camille. All these junglers trying to play Camille was
oh
very
man.
funny.
No,
Yeah, I
like
mean, I don't think anyone enjoys. Sorry, like anyone enjoys like the level 2 gank or like the 3 camp into fight crab. And if you lose a crab, the game is over. Like that was
yep.
even worse than this, right? When like
Yeah.
junglers were like paying bot crab, you had no prio, you couldn't fucking fight it. They would still go for it, die, and just grief the whole game afterwards. That was even worse. But I
Yep.
think like I miss when jungle was like a meaningful role where like if you farmed and he ganks, you are really far ahead.
Mhm.
Like this whole catch up XP and like catering to like, you know, new players playing jungle. I understand from like a game balance PUV that they want to make the game more
Mhm.
accessible to new players by making like brand jungle easier to play. I get it, but it ruins high elo that like you can just be down 2 levels as a
Yeah.
poppy jungle and then just kill 2 camps and now you're back in XP.
Yeah. I think
Oh, it's dog shit.
look, I just blame laners because the reason why the jungle meta became a full clear meta is because laners didn't like getting ganked. Like people would just be like, man, it really sucks when I'm winning my lane and like, people that are not high elo have no idea what wave they're crashing, like trying to play their lane in accordance to where the jungler started, any of this stuff. So
Yeah.
people just got ganked. They hated getting ganked. And then Riot's like, fine, we're just gonna make it better to full clear your first clear. So at least less people get ganked early game and laners can be happy. So I just blame laners completely. I just want to throw that out there
Yeah.
as a
I
as
mean,
a
the
jungler.
biggest problem with jungle will always be that laners don't understand jungle. Like,
Mhm.
jungle is not actually an OP role. It just is the most, like, misunderstood role. You know, if a laner plays jungle, they won't play it like they think the jungle should play when
Of
they're
course
playing
not.
lane, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
Berserker would always complain about junglers, right? When he was playing with me like, in Duke or whatever. Then in one game, he's auto jungle, and he's full clearing 6 camps in line,
Yeah,
over and
of
over again.
course.
6 camps, crab base, 6 camps, crab base. And then I'm like, so this is how you play jungle when you're jungling, huh? But when he plays AD carry, oh, my jungle don't gank, but we can't win. You know, like it's the most like, how do you say it, like misunderstood role, and people just die like the stupidest shit. Blame the junglers.
Mhm.
Most frustrating role to play as, I think, is by far jungle. You get blamed for everything, which is why
Yep.
it's so like it's always changed every year. You know, every offseason, jungle gets the most changes.
Yep.
Just
Absolutely.
deleted like in Dota, man. I was watching
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dota with Dom, and he said, "There's no more junglers. People just do camps." I'm like, "Okay."
How do
Yeah. You
people
just
play Dota? Like, how do you play like a bad lane matchup in Dota?
so I mean, there's a couple. So I'm not super versed in it, but Yamato and I were watching the international, and a lot of like how you can play when you're on like the weak side of a lane is you pull the jungle camps to your own lane, and you pull like your lane minions to the jungle camps, and that allows like
What the
that.
fuck?
Yeah, so that allows like the enemy wave to come into you, right? So like you'll be
Fuck
essentially
you
just
say to me?
pulling. Yeah, you pull your wave to the jungle camp, and then like their wave pushes in, and then the fight will occur like on your side of the map around your own jungle camp, So
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
uh,
Well, you pulled your own wave into jungle.
yeah, you pull
Imagine
your own
minions
wave.
Crazy.
fighting golems like level
Yeah,
1.
yeah, yeah.
Where's
Like
my
Yeah,
wave?
exactly. That's what happens, and then like you can like
proxy
deny
your
your
own
own
wave.
minions there. Like
Proxy
yeah,
your own wave. Yeah.
I
That's so
think
crazy.
they kind of like deleted the jungle role from Dota because I think there was a lot of like tri laning and just weird strats that people didn't understand. So they did kind of make Dota like always a 2-1-2. Like there's always 2 people top, 2 people bot, 1 person
Oh, really?
mid, and then like the supports can move around, you can teleport, like all this type of stuff. But in general, like you're laning 2v2 now in Dota. But yeah, to get off the Dota point, when you brought up Dignitas earlier, I wanted to ask a question about like when you're on a team with a lot of veterans, because when people see a team like Dignitas, the general perception is going to be like, oh, they're a bunch of boomers, they're old players, but they're gonna have really good macro. They're gonna be a smart team, but they're gonna have no mechanics, right? Like that's gonna be the community dumbed down perception of what the team is
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be.
a narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be the narrative. And then when they see you guys play, they'll be confused, like, like they have all these veterans. How did they make like a bad Baron call or a bad Dragon call? Like, what do you think about these types of narratives of boomer teams? Because we saw the same thing with like Heretics in Europe. We've seen the same thing with like Old Immortals in 2020 in North America. It's like these teams that have multiple veterans. People expect there to be better macro and like less things are going to be as variant. My personal belief, just I'll throw out my personal bias. I think it's just like the game changes so much that the macro changes, right? When grubs don't exist in the
Yeah,
previous
yeah.
years, right? Like that's going to be the main thing that's going to like alter how you play the game and what your macro is. But what is your perception of this narrative?
Okay, first thing is like I think the age thing is stupid as fuck. I don't know why in League we think if someone's over 25 that they automatically have worse mechanics than someone who's 20 like 1. I don't get it. I would understand it if you thought someone who's older has worse mechanics because they play less, because they're like maybe like less motivated or they have a wife or some shit, Then I get it. But like, there's no fucking difference between a guy who's 26 and a guy who's 22. Like mechanic wise, there just is no like biological reason why you couldn't have better mechanics than the other guy, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I played a
But you
game
peak later
as
in
much.
life now.
Yeah, I played a game as much now as I did when I was fucking 19. I don't think my mechanics have gotten worse because of my age.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like
Okay.
that. I hate that narrative. There are people playing in the NBA who are like almost 40, bro. Fucking LeBron James is what, 39?
Yep.
There's people in Formula One that are in their 30s, maybe 40s. I don't even know.
Like
You know what I'm saying?
UFC
Like,
fighters are like getting titles when
yeah,
they're like
yeah.
when they're
You think
30,
like,
31.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, so it's weird. People think age matters in League or in esports in general. That's one thing. And then for the shot calling and the macro thing, obviously you have to adjust to things like Grubs being more OP than Herald, right? Last year, support was all about being level 6 at 8 minutes when I was playing it, right, at Worlds.
Mhm.
Because if you got every single wave of experience, at 7:30 you could go mid, get 6 in the wave, and fight Herald at level 6 Nautilus or Alistar, and you'll be fucking OP.
Yep.
But then nowadays, it's like, there's nothing at 8 minutes. There's Drake at 5 minutes, and there's Grubs at 6 minutes. So supports can just run there, like complete idiots, don't care about the XP. As long as you're level 3, you're good to go, you know? And then as long as you hit level 6 on second grubs at 10 minutes or around that time, right? And then you're fine. So the game is different now than it was when I played last. So I had different ideas for my support how to play the game. And then we'll move on from that. Obviously, I think that the way you should play depends on the game. Draft, for example, the whole core Stam meta, right? If one team had 5 grubs, you had to match them the whole game. You could never ever trade sides, so you must play 3 lanes if they play 3 lanes. You have no choice. Whereas last year, you could always choose how to play. You were never forced to match them unless they had Herald. So that was a big changer for us. Because like Jensen and FlyQuest in Spring like to defend. They always wanted to like defend tier 1 towers and defend the weak side and play 3 lanes that way, right? And use TP to defend. While Licorice, last time he played, Golden Guardians was kind of like they would hit their head into the wall, right? Until their head breaks or the wall breaks. That's how Golden Guardians played.
Mhm.
So Jensen and Eric Licorice were the two biggest like disagreeers on how to play. Whereas I'm a bit more balanced. Like I think, okay, this game we have Tristana with 6 grubs. We should just run to silent and push, and they must match us. And when they do, we move first to the jungle, right? Now we run the whole server. Whereas it's like one guy has this opinion, I have this opinion, and like it's just hard to agree because we all think we're right. Whereas like let's say like you had like Jensen playing with like a rookie top and rookie AD, like Sniper and Tomo, for example, right? They would probably just listen to him because he's the veteran, right? He was in finals in spring, so he's right. Or if I was playing with like Quid and Sniper, then I would tell them like, this game, these are the terms. This game, these are the variables. Blah blah blah. They would just agree with me. So like sometimes it's easier to have like one veteran player with 2 rookies who you can gaslight into playing your way, right? I'm serious, right? Like,
Nice.
No, it makes sense for sure.
No,
that's why
it's
that's why
100%
it took so long for
logical.
us to agree because we all think we're right because we all had success in some form in the last year or so playing the way we talked about, right? That was our biggest issue, I think, as a team, and I think like we weren't super good at the meta. It took us a long time to pick up things that were OP. Um, Jensen's always not like a huge 80 carry mid enjoyer. And I think top, we didn't play Rumble at first. And ball lane, we didn't play Senna when it was OP at first. Took us a while to play. And like in the first week of LCS, I remember C9 banned like Kalista, Ashe, and something else. And I was like, what the fuck? I haven't played one game of those champions. And I realized they were actually all OP champs at that point in time. And I didn't play them a single game, And I was like,
Yes.
well, I guess this is what it looks like in high elo scrims. This is what they play in those scrims.
Yeah.
So we were just really bad at meta reads, which is like a problem that happens because we're playing on the live patch. We couldn't copy anyone else. But yeah, I think our biggest issues were bad meta reads. We're playing live patch, and we didn't have a lot of time to practice before the split started. And then the whole macro thing I talked about earlier. That was our biggest issues
Yeah.
as a team.
I mean, the follow-up question, I guess this could be for both of you guys, is the way I always kind of saw it is that the coach's job is to kind of like resolve these disputes between players. Like that's where the coach will actually be the most useful. I don't think
doing, bro.
I don't think the coach is going to be there most of the time to teach the players the game. Like if you have especially a veteran team, like I think a lot of times a veteran coach is not going to come in and be like, Sven, this is how you got to fucking play the game. Like the players are going to know how to play the game, but like from seeing it from the outside, being able to resolve these differences, this is what I would think the coach's job would be. I guess we can go Yamato first on this one. Like, do you think that this being the person that breaks the stalemate, is that what you see as a coach's job, or how would you approach this type of problem?
Like I would say that always it comes down to like I think your job is to make sure that the knowledge of the person, like the person that has the highest knowledge, you make sure that ceiling is applicable for everybody. So I think there's cases where like I've worked with players that know more about me about things, but I make sure to learn that so I can transfer that to everybody else so they can buy into how he plays. And in some cases, there's going to be like, let's say my bot lane, for example, in Vitality, bot lane didn't know how to play some of the matchups. Then I made sure to like put myself into that information because I knew this was like a flaw that needed to be covered. And then I knew less about like mid lane matchups at the time because I think it's impossible to know everything at the same time at the highest level. It was just a question of knowing the flaw and then knowing how to learn how to solve the flaw. And then in the end, it's just about making sure that there is like a collective buy-in into everything. Because sometimes there's like smart players, but they are very, very bad at communicating. Like the best players are the ones that can have like a very strong idea about the game and can explain that to everybody else. It's like that's why you always see like the same players winning, right? It's like it's always the same names, the same guys, the people that are considered like elite players out of the West, right?
Yeah, I think coaching isn't so black and white. It's like every team needs a different type of coach to succeed. And I think it's on the coach to figure out what their team needs. Like I don't think, let's take an example, right? Teal. I can guarantee you, like Spawn isn't teaching Coach J or Impact how to play the game.
Of course not.
There's no way. But I think someone like Rainover, ex-pro player, jungler, is probably helping Umti how to jungle better, right? Because
I
he's a
hope so.
jungler. I think the most teams these days have a head coach that helps mostly with like conflicts or personal things, while the assistant coach is a smart guy. Look at like fly quests with Mebdi or TL with Rainover, right? We had treats. Like many teams have an ex-pro player as their assistant coach, and the head coach is someone that can solve conflicts. That's like a good template on paper, in my opinion, to have.
Mhm.
I think that in some teams, for example, when I was playing in G2, Youngbug didn't teach me or Mebdi or Perks how to play, but he tried his best in writing down points for us to review. He absorbed information about draft and prepared drafts so we could spend less time on draft meetings, and he could just take it over for us. On top of that, that was back in the day, right? So he had to also cook and like clean and be our manager because that was before you had 10 different people for 10 different things.
Yep.
But like, what I was saying was that he just came into the team. He was very humble about it. He was very okay with not being the boss of the team. He didn't tell anyone how to play or what to do. He would never ever say, "I think you played lane bad." Never. He would just ask you about it, absorb information, and then take the information in and use it for drafts or for future games. And I think that's why Youngbug was such a good coach, despite being a complete mega bottom tier player. That's why I respect Joey for how he managed
Okay,
to make.
Jesus, bro, you didn't have
No,
to
I
say
mean,
that
like,
part.
look, no, look, like, I like Joey, and
Yeah, you
I
just think
like
he's a
working
mega
with
bum
Joey.
as a player. Okay, nice.
I mean, he was a bum, and I would tell him that to his face too.
I
Like
played
Joey,
against him. He was not that great.
you're, he was trash. He was the worst player in the worst team. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? And that's
Yeah, no, I
okay,
mean I see it.
but it's the way
Playing
he
at
came
Wolves
into
is
the
not good.
team, and then I remember like when Fnatic got Joey afterwards, they thought he was the goat, you know, because
Hmm.
he absorbed all the information and he conveyed. But in Fnatic, he was actually teaching them how to play the game. Like they said, they learned so much from him because in that team, he was maybe smarter than some of the players.
They also had Dylan and Mephisto, so that was like a more
Yeah.
complete coaching
Yeah,
staff as
yeah, of
well.
course. But then, like in different teams I played in the future, right? The coaches were a lot more. For example, Mebdi. Mebdi's a lot more involved. He always wants to talk about actual gameplay. He wants to talk about the mid game. He wants to talk about how we rotated, how one guy didn't come for mid wave in this round when he should have come here. But Mebdi isn't as good at handling like an argument, which is a problem we had in C9 in 2021, for example. We had a lot of arguments between me and Mebdi or like two other players. Same problem happened in 2023 where Mebdi was like a little bit immature in 21. I think when he was coaching, it was like his second year coaching, and there was obviously he was previously friends. Well, still I am friends, but he was like previously a teammate with me and Perks, right? So there was a bit of a problem with like the authority scale of like you're still friends, but coach should be up here and players should be down here, right? When you talk to each other. Um, but like some coaches are good at like the game, and some are good at resolving conflicts between players when they're being stupid, which players are stupid, right? So it's hard to get the coaching to do everything, which is why I think the best formula for coaching staff is to have one guy who facilitates the points that the assistant coach makes for the head coach, solves conflicts between players in a well-mannered way, and assistant coach is the one who's good at the game, the one who's
Yeah.
smart about the game. And I think that's why we see the best teams. I know that Nutak, for example, is very based and can handle big egos like Inspired or Whippo or me or Perks or whatever, right? While Mebdi is much better at the game than Nutak ever was. I think so, at least. And
Okay.
much smarter about things like mid game, things like macro. Like I've never watched anyone who could watch a VOD like Mebdi and actually extract information from the VOD rather than just like the average player watching a VOD and be like,
Oh,
oh,
we
I saw
shouldn't have
this
done
matchup.
this here.
Yeah, I saw this matchup. They were up Pensius, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's they're not useful information. But yeah, what I was saying is like I think coaching is just a really like broad thing. You have to figure out how to make yourself useful in a team, but also you should build your coaching staff or your team around the other. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like obviously a team like Team Liquid does not need a coach to teach the players how to play. They have two people that can do that already. They have two world champs for fuck's sake, right? So all you need is a head coach like Spawn he's a bit older, has respect from the players, I imagine, and comes off as a how do you say it, like a guy you respect,
Yeah, he's like a leader.
Like just
Yeah,
maintaining like accountability,
yeah. Like he can
just
tell the
making
guys
sure that
like,
everybody
yeah,
does their job and no one fucks around. It's like you're entering a
exactly. Like
scrim and someone needs to tell you what the fuck are you doing? You're entering my
no,
fucking scrim. 11 people in there wasting their time, motherfucker. You want to be
yeah,
out the window? Not that
exactly. This is what
harsh,
I'm
but
saying. Like obviously I don't actually know how TL coaches. I've never seen their scrims or been there in person, but that's how I see it from the outside.
Yeah.
And I think that I've had a lot of different coaches, some really terrible, some
Yep.
really, really good. And it was not always the better player or the smarter player or coach, sorry, that was better. Sometimes, like I said, Joey found success in our team, Youngbuck, because he was good at understanding his place in the team.
Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. I think a lot of times coaches that haven't coached before, they go into the like field of coaching and it's almost like they're trying to prove how smart they are to everyone.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to prove their intelligence as opposed to actually like coming in and being even keel and trying to understand what the team needs. And I feel like the advantage that the coach has obviously is you just don't have as much you shouldn't have as much emotion. Like when players are arguing, when players are in the game, they're going to come out, they're going to be emotional. And I think that the coach is the person that can be the most logical out of everyone because it just sucks that like losing in League of Legends is just infuriating. Whenever you play a game where it feels like you can't fucking do anything, it's just gonna piss you off, like no matter who you are. So
Yeah,
I feel like it's got to be a thing where the coach can help you in these ways. I mean, like right now, look, I have a story about a coach that I can share with you guys. Early coaching days in 2014, and I thought this would be good because just hearing like what coaching is now.
Off stream, but continue.
Oh, no, not the story I said off stream. No. That's one that we have to keep in the vault. But yeah, I remember the first coach I ever had was a guy named Roman, and this guy came in and he was supposed to be the guy that cracked skulls. He's like, I'm gonna fucking teach you guys like how to fucking behave. Like I'm gonna be the authoritarian type coach. And this seemed really good because we're just a bunch of fucking dumbass kids in like season 4. Like we're just lucky to not be in our parents' houses anymore and be playing video games for a living. This guy Roman, he talked a big game, came to the curse, team curse house. We didn't have facilities back then. It was just we had a team curse house. We had 13 people living in a 4-bedroom house. It was super interesting. We had Saint sleeping in the same bed as just like Joka Steve, our manager. Like they put a pillow line down the middle. It's like we didn't have 2 beds for them to sleep in. One had to sleep on the other. The other person, like there was one time Saint woke up. He's like, bro, this guy's fucking arm was on me when I woke up. What the fuck? Like, get off me, bro. Like it was messed up back then. This guy Roman comes in and he says, okay, before I actually teach you guys anything, I need to observe. I need to be able to figure out how the team works. I don't want to jump in and start changing things immediately without the knowledge of how things operate in Team Curse. So he would sit in our room in a director's chair. So like the ones that are really, really high up.
Yeah.
With like the wooden cross like this. So he would sit in the director's chair and he would just be on his phone the entire time. And he came in, I think 2 weeks before LCS. We started playing 2 weeks before LCS. And then once we were in week 3 of LCS, he had still not given us like 1 point. He had just been sitting there on his phone, just watching us the whole time. And we ended up being like, yo, dude, we're losing in LCS now. Like, we're actually fucking losing, like all the time. Like, you need to start doing something. If you're supposed to be a head cracker, you're supposed to come in, teach us the fucking game, anything like this. And he's like, honestly, I just don't know anything about the game. And then we just fired him on the spot. So that was my first experience with a coach. And that's when Mark Z became like our official coach. Because at least he would kind of like watch the games and like know what the fuck is going on. But it's nice to see how far coaching has come because we used to have some real frauds back in the day. And that's why I was so like happy to have a person like Peter Zhang that could actually teach me things about the game that I didn't know. I feel like as a coach, a lot of times what you're doing is you just have to like, it's about the environment you're in. Like the better coaches, I feel like they've just been around so many good players that, as a player, you absorb so much knowledge from the people that you're around. And a lot of it is just based on who you've been able to play with. But yeah, I've had
I can just underline all of this is that it's like how I've worked in every single team that I've been in has been very different. It's like, just because you commit to 5 players, I think it's very, very hard to be like, this is my coaching style, you better fit into this shit. It's like, especially with the game that is changing, because you commit to 5 players, the game is changing, so you need to actively reassess and relearn all the time. And I think the most important thing has always been the ability to learn the things that are missing, if they are missing from the play group that you have, and being able to act the right way depending on the situation. It's like, to be able to have the perspective where, right now the players need me to be mad and to be able to deploy that is like the most useful thing, because of course, like, players' emotions run very high depending on what kind of emotion you can instill and weaponize in that moment is like the most powerful tool that you can have in terms of like invoking the right response in players depending on the situation. Like, I remember, like, Vitality, some players needed to be flamed, some players needed to be like, yo, it's all right, man, just get back on the horse, take it easy, it's no problem. And then it's like you just kind of have to figure out the puzzle of the dynamic. So every year that I worked, every year was like insanely like different. It's like you just have to take up accountability and realize where you can be effective by noticing where the holes of the Swiss cheese is. Because when I think back, it's like every year is so fucking different. You know, Dom, I want to go back because, like, my first interaction with Zven was kind of fucked up, and to me it bothers me to this day because I played with you for like 2 weeks,
Yeah, I
and
remember.
we were playing with Hawkden, and they were playing with Jeebus.
In
And it was
CJ,
so
right?
fucked. Yes.
Cookie jar.
Cookie jar gaming, and
Okay.
basically there was this time, it's like I was buddies with Jeebus, who eventually played like in LCS, and then suddenly he just said, I want to play AD, and we just kind of like kicked you out of fucking nowhere. Like, at the time, it
Yeah,
was
I
like,
remember.
people were just being pieces of shit, but that is
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that's bothered me for fucking 10 years. Like,
I never
so
thought
I
much about it, to be
apologize
honest.
for that shit that we pulled because it was bullshit. But the reason I brought this way back, because your fucking start, there was the fucking Origen project. I think that's like the
Yeah.
biggest example that I always point to as why we are missing franchising, because you guys like built your own thing. And referencing back to what you mentioned, it's like you were the rookie playing with 4 fucking veterans for that,
Yeah.
for the challenger split, and then coming into to
It was
summer.
fucking epic, yeah, that year.
Tell us about it, man.
I mean, so in 2014, I'm in high school, right? And around like November or something, I get an offer from Fnatic. Karn adds me on Skype after some time and tells me about it. And my brother was a big Counter-Strike fan, so he was freaking out when I told him Karn added me. He was a former Counter-Strike legend, apparently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they
he
sent
was.
me over, yeah, they sent me like a contract and everything, like a template to show my mom and everything. And I thought the Yellow Star, who was at this time kind of like the GOAT of EU support players.
Yep.
And then like after some days, Fnatic xPeke adds me on the client and talks to me about this new project he has, where he has himself and so far, and Mebdi as a support player. And I met Mebdi at Copenhagen Games in like 2013, I think. He's playing with NIP. And Mebdi was a lot more like me. He was stupid, funny, had a very big sarcastic humor that was kind of like me, and he was very straight to the point, like I am. And he just fit me a lot better as a player. So I chose Origen over Fnatic at the time, even though I knew Fnatic was the best team in the LCS and Origen was going to be in Challenge Series. I thought, okay, I think one split in Challenge Series could be good for me. Then I moved to Tenerife, where we played Challenge Series with these 4 players. We got Amazing from TSM, and dude, that whole year was like living a dream. It's like if you asked a 17-year-old guy, what do you think pro play is like? That was what it was like. It was so fucking nice. Like just 5 guys living in their own house, making their own food, playing the game every hour of the day, having fun, like complete, frat type vibes, and I fucking loved it. Every part of it was fucking awesome. Um, and then we qualified for LAC or EU LCS, and the first half of the year I was being gaslit or being told how to play by other people. Mithy was yelling at me a lot, and I often contribute me peaking so early in my career to him because he would always push me. He would always say like, "You should fucking communicate this. You should fucking do this, and you should fucking say these things." And then I was like, he would just push me, to become better and better every day. And having people around like Peke and Soas and Amazing to help with other things. For example, xPeke was like, I don't think he was super good at the time. I think he was kind of like declining because he had to work so much with the org itself. But he helped me so much with like out of the game things, like how to live on your own and how to make your own food, or like one day I remember I was fucking starving because I didn't know how to cook. Right, I was 17 years old, and he would look at me and be like, "Yo, bro, you want a burger? I'm making food right now." And he would just make me a burger and sit in the kitchen with me and talk to me about like what it's like to move away from your home as a 17-year-old kid. It's kind of scary, you know, for some people. And he was like the genuinely nicest guy I've ever met would be xPeke. And he helped me a lot. Like, he was my best friend in the team, him and Mebdi. And it was just so fucking nice to have these people around me. And that's why I think I was so good. And fast forward, qualified to LCS, we're second place the whole split. Fnatic's like almost undefeated, I think, this split. Or undefeated. I think they were undefeated, right? 8-0
Yep,
that
18-0.
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we played them in the finals. And we fucking lose. 5-game series.
Craziest final.
Close.
Craziest
One of
final.
the best
Way
finals.
closer than people thought.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be close, but it was one of the best finals of all time of the LEC. Still is to this day, I think, one of the best finals. And I remember like game 4, I think it is. I think in game 3, it's the famous pentakill from Reckless. It's the We're in Sweden pentakill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then in game 4, let me see. I think we're down like 10,000 gold in game 4. OG versus Fnatic.
It was the
game
GP
4.
game, I think. So was GP.
I'm playing Tristana. He's playing Lulu, I think. Oh, there's one more. It's so long ago I can't even find it. Let me see. 9 years ago on
Damn.
YouTube. Yeah, let me see here. I think we're down like 10k gold in this game. I'm playing Tristana because Regulus was complete 1v9 last game, right? So I'm saying I'm playing. Oh, so is playing fifth top and Peke is playing Lulu mid.
Oh shit.
The good old days.
Fucking
And we're,
Yordle team.
yeah, we're down like 10 gold. And I remember Soaz said, or Peke maybe, said it's fucking over in the game. Like, we were in our base saying it's fucking over, boys, or something like this.
Nice.
And then I'm saying like, no, trust me, we can win. And then someone said, okay. And then no one said anything for like 2 minutes. And then we won like a team fight mid, a bit later. I'm looking at the game right now. And then I remember after this game, I 1v9'd, I complete 1v9'd my double PD Tristana. And that was the moment where I think I stopped being a rookie. In that very moment, I took like responsibility and said, no, we can win. Just give me these items and I'll carry it. Trust me. And everyone said, okay. And that was it. And then we won that game. I remember walking off while hearing silver scrapes blasting in my ears. And I knew this was it, you know? This is like what I want to do with my career, my life. Because my mom told me, so in Denmark, you can easily leave school at any point in high school and just come back after 1 year and take one test and you're back where you started. Nothing was lost.
Okay.
So the deal we had, my mom and I, was that you try for 1 year. And if it doesn't work, back to school. No problem. Because my mom is a teacher. She's very traditional. Like, you go elementary school, you go high school, you go university, education, wife, kids, dog, you know what I'm saying? But then in this moment, I already knew I was gonna do this for my whole life if I could. And then we went to Worlds after losing the game 5 banger series, and there was a point at Worlds where this was the meta where people playing like Riven, Heka, Rimtop, Fiora, Darius, all these kind of like they're called something like not Bruce's.
Yeah, Juggernauts. It was Juggernaut pack.
Yeah,
2015.
Juggernauts. And after we reached quarterfinals, Soaz said, no, after we won the quarterfinals, Soaz said in the room, talking about, you know, draft against SKT. I don't think I should play these champs. I think Ballin should carry. You're our best player. And
OG Niels.
yeah, he said that in a meeting. And before that, Peke had said, guys, I'm not good enough anymore. So he invented this like crystalline flask with 4 pots. Basically 7 pots. Imagine like cup and potion plus 4 more potions with TP and flat HP runes and everything. That was his thing that he basically what I'm trying to say is that my soul inners said they didn't think they were very good at the time, but they put all the confidence in me to carry. And they did things.
And how did it go versus SKT?
Well, we got stomped.
Hey,
Okay.
don't do that,
But-
Dom.
Oh, no, I was just trying to.
Come on, Dom.
I wanted to know what how the story goes.
Hear me out,
Dom.
okay. So
Continue,
the point of the
continue,
story
bro.
was that they put all this trust in me, and SKT. To be honest, if I was an SKT, I would have won Worlds that year. Let's be real.
Okay.
We can
That
go
was
through
that
right
was
now if
Bang.
you want.
That was Bang,
Bang,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like no offense to Bang, but if I was SKT, I would win Worlds too. That's
Okay.
all.
It was
But the
heavy
point I was trying to say
co-signing
is
at
that
the time.
I peaked quickly in my career because I had a network of veterans around me that taught me the game, pushed me when I needed to be pushed, and then when I was finally there, which was around the finals of the summer of 2015, they all trusted me. I was given the tools to carry every game. I was trusted with everything. That's why I was so good so early in my career because of these people. And then yeah, we couldn't beat SKT. They lost one game the whole tournament,
Yeah,
right?
they were insane. I think
Yeah,
they
that
lost
was
one
Like
game in finals, right? It was
they
like
had
the
they had the
Cassian game or
two
something.
best mid laners in the tournament in the
Yep.
same team, and their
Yep.
top laner was that guy was good at the time. Like
Yeah, Marin.
yeah, and I remember against SKT, right? The first game was actually really close. It was like a 35+ minute game, and we were winning at some point. And then as we're losing, right? Maurice, amazing, says, "Guys, they aren't that good. We can win." And then we get stumped in game 2, right? We get mega stumped.
Yep.
And then as we're doing a draft for game 3, the referee comes to us and says, "Hey guys, they're stopping in Faker for game 3." And we can hear the boss music, you know. And then after that, I went to IEM San Jose that year, where we
Yep.
beat CLG, I think it was, or TSM in the finals. We had Power Evil playing that as well, and I went to All Stars as well. So my first year was like the whole fucking package. Like I did everything that year. Challenge Series, lived in Tenerife in Spain, Island in Spain, qualified for LCS by relegations. We had the first place in relegations where like you beat another Challenge Series team to replace the 10th place team. There was not
Yeah,
actually
the
no like
auto relegation.
This is the auto relegation.
yeah. And then we played finals of LCS, 5 games against Fnatic, undefeated team. Went to Worlds semifinals, played IM San Jose. We won that tournament, and then I went to All Stars. But between All Stars and the IEM, we went to Amsterdam, the whole team. So all 5 players with Power Evil, with Cyanide, with Reckless,
Okay.
and some other people that were like part of that
Was
friend
Febby
circle.
there?
You know. Who?
Fabiven?
No, he was not there.
Oh, okay.
Although I understand why
He was
you
a
would think
baby
that.
back then, bro.
Yeah,
Thought the
yeah, yeah.
gardener might be out there, you know.
So we go to Amsterdam, and you know, bunch of guys in Amsterdam, and
We
that
know.
and that
Yeah.
that was my like I don't smoke or do drugs. I don't judge people that do, but I didn't do anything like that. But I was there with my whole team, and it was just like that whole year was such a welcome to esports for me, and I loved every second of it. Playing, screaming, living, just this whole vibe of there's nothing in your head that matters besides waking up and playing. And then just Origen was like a bunch of guys that were just so fucking nice. Like we could have the most banger arguments, like so punch a fucking wall, and then we wouldn't see him for like 24 hours. Next day, show up and scrim like nothing happened, or like have a tough day scrims, go to the Indian restaurant next to the house, and just talk about like sports or a girl something, and it was just so perfect. This intro to esports. So my rookie year was something.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of crazy how, bro, like there's so many details. Like
Yeah.
that there was a
Yes.
chance where you went to Fnatic and Reckless wasn't in
Yeah.
Fnatic. It could have like changed the course
Yeah.
of European history. You
Yep.
skipped
Great to
over
think
how
about.
you beat us in Game 5 when I was in Rocket. That
I don't
made
even
me
remember
sad,
that,
but it's
bro. Was that
it's just a
no, that
footnote.
was in the gauntlet, right? That was in the
It
gauntlet,
was in
right?
the gauntlet,
Yeah. I remember
No, it's no worries.
weren't
You
we
don't have to
down?
bring it up. I just throw that in there, you
No,
know?
let's bring it up. How nice was it to beat Yamato in that game 5? Did you feel really good about like destroying his career? Like, you know.
That was Mr. Rallis, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Holy fuck, bro.
Was that the
Throwback.
duck? Was that the doctor?
It was Nuktak, bro. Nuktak pulled out
Dr.
the
Duck?
Diana. I just pulled out Diana in Game 5. It was a classic.
Broadcast
was,
versus OG
He
2015.
doesn't even remember the games, bro. Like,
that's
I do.
crazy.
I think we're down in game 4. We're down like 2-1, no, in the series.
Yeah. And
Holy
then
shit.
it went to 5, and then I busted out I opened up Callista for the first time, and we got it into the first pick Brom, and then Nuktag wanted to pick Diana.
First pick Brown.
First pick
First pick
Brom.
Brom in playoffs.
But that always kind of came around in LEC. It always felt like for some reason Braum wouldn't be played the whole split, and then playoffs would hit, and it would be like Braum every fucking game, and then it became like Rakan later on. You know, like these champions
bro,
would just
like,
giga skyrocket
Fucking
in
Hybrid
now
power.
made a
I have,
career on that shit.
I have Games of Legends right now on my second monitor. I type Mebdi. Most played Brown, 62 games. Win rate 71%.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Second most played Tom Kinch, 60 games, 60% win rate. The GOAT.
You know, it's
Brown
it's,
Tom
it's,
to you.
it's a perfect segue because Hybrid made a career playing Brom, but then you guys jumped in and took the spot in G2. That was one of the weirdest transitions looking from outside in
Yeah,
terms
that
of how
was-
everything went down.
that was something, yeah.
The story of everything is the statute of limitation is gone. Can you tell us how that transition happened like mid-split? Because it's like you guys were in Origin and then
I
it's
mean,
like that.
I quite literally can't tell you because I don't think I'm allowed to. But
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Mebdi and I, okay, so basically Origin after 2015 Worlds and IEM and all that, we got Power Evil because xPeke was too busy with the org, and then Mebdi and Amazing got an offer from TSM
Ooh.
in 16, and I talked to them both about it, and I told them I want to run back the whole team for next year because he was too good to not run back. Right, we went finals first split, and we went to World Semifinals and won IEM and all that things, right? But I also knew that Mithy had lifelong dream of playing in TSM ever since he heard the TSM chants at Worlds in Lemon Dogs season 4, I guess that was.
Damn.
Maybe season 3.
Season
Don't
3,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
sub.
for people
And-
that don't know, they're
Yeah,
TSM used to be a team in the LCS that is now like the org is completely collapsed. There's just nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it's
But
it's
for
crazy.
if we have
I have
any
no
new
idea.
viewers, this used to be an organization that played in the LCS, the League Championship Series in North America. So
Yeah.
you can continue with your point.
And then I told them I wanted to stay in the team, and they did. But so many things were promised, like having a chef or having our own rooms, were not met. They just made they took these IKEA plastic walls and put them in the room, make them into 2, and I could hear Power Evil watching a movie next door, or next door, in the same room as me, but with a piss door between us.
Yeah.
Can't jerk off.
And yeah, let's say that, yeah. And it was just the org was a sinking ship. We had a lot of trouble whenever xPeke wasn't around. There would be a lot of conflicts. Power Evil and Amazing, despite both being German, didn't mesh at all. This was during Dynamic Queue, when people could play 5-man ranked, and it was actually the real ranked game, not like a flex queue type shit. It actually was real ranked solo queue as 5.
Yep.
And we would never play in Origin because Swords wouldn't play after scrims, and Maurice, Amazing, and Power Evil would never play together either. So I ended up playing with Perks and Trick because G2 had the same problem with their bot lane and top lane not playing the game. That was Kikis, Emperor, and Hybrid. So we took
Emperor
the 2
was
best
so
players.
bad, man. I can't believe
Yeah,
that guy won. He was so
Hybrid.
bad.
That guy beat me in a final. It was crazy. I was
No,
so
I
fucking
mean,
mad.
he was
But
like 10th
anyways.
place in A. He was 10th place in A, the split right before, and it was then I just saw him winning LEC or EU LCS
Yeah.
at the time. I couldn't believe it.
Thank you for the reminder. But
Yep.
we took the 2 best players from Origin, in my opinion, and 2 best players from G2, and we were just playing Dynamic Queue, and we were just stomping everyone that split. Then G2 won the split, and I thought, well, OG fucking sucks as an org. The whole situation was just bad. The org was a sinking ship, mismanaged by xPeke and his mother. I love xPeke to death, and since those days we made with rivals many years later, and we were good friends. Don't talk anymore, but we were good friends. But he wasn't as good of a CEO or manager as Carlos was in G2, right? He was a better player, not the better org or CEO. So I wanted to leave. And the way that was handled wasn't very good. We told Origen very, very late that we wanted this to happen, and there was a lot of I can't really talk about it too much, but internal issues between Origen, G2, and Riot. Ultimately, the transfer went through, but there was a lot of bad blood for a long time. We couldn't even look at each other in the studios. It was really bad, and I really hated it because Mebdi and Amazing came to me when they wanted to leave for TSM in 2016 or between 15 and 16, right? So I always hated how that happened because they gave us the respect to talk to us and they stayed in the team despite having their dream offer. And then we went to shit in 16 spring. We had so many like cancel scrims or like sit down in a circle, one guy's crying, and we just couldn't fix our issues without Peke. He was like he wasn't even like I won't say good player. He wasn't even like our best player, even close to it. But he was such an important part for our like our atmosphere and for our mental. You know, he was like they call it a spark plug. He ignites other people around him. That's true. Um, the team fell apart when he wasn't playing, which is why in spring finals against G2, despite picking up playing almost the whole split, he played in the finals at the end. And he was really far ahead in that game he played, but he just was so out of shape that it didn't matter. We didn't win that game despite all that. But yeah, Origen was sinking ship. That's his long story, short version. And then I wanted out because I wanted to play with Trick and with Perks. It happened. We went to Worlds and we won my first split, and it felt like I had a long time coming. You know, winning my first title in the LIC in 16 summer. But I really hated for a long time, still do, how that happened because I still like, you know, Peke, Soas, and Amazing. I only talk to Soas, he's in NA as well, and Mithy, of course. But I really hated how that happened, and I wish it could have been handled better. Um, but yeah, it is what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the the team that you were originally on, where it was you were the rookie and there was a bunch of veterans around, and it seems like those are the teams that always find the the success. Is that the sweet spot where you want to have like a few veterans and then a couple like one or two talented rookies? Because FlyQuest, it reminds me a lot of how that team is. Even though Bucio's in his second year, he is essentially a rookie. Like he's somebody who's new, who's learning from
Yeah.
other people. I mean, you have Masu obviously, who's seems really talented. He's somebody who's seems to have improved a lot throughout the year. Do you think that that's the sweet spot for a team where you don't want too many rookies, you don't want too many veterans, you kind of want veterans to guide talented rookies?
I think that, you know, we've seen so many super teams fall the last couple of years. I think the most important thing is that you start building your team with like-minded players. For example, Origen, right? Your point was, Peke started a team. First person in the team is Soas, his ex-teammate from Fnatic, someone that he agreed with how to play and liked as a person. Then they get Mebdi, who was banned in season 4
Yeah.
with Nutuk, who was like a very skilled player. Like people consider Mebdi the second best support in the EU at the worst, right? With DL Star. And then obviously at this point we have 3 experienced players, 3 veterans. We need some fucking firepower, right? So we get the hotshot solo queue ADC from the ladder, me, the GOAT. And I think that
Okay.
makes sense. But I think a lot of time these days, people just take like the best player plus the best player plus the best player, and here we go, boys. Hope it works. What the fuck? We didn't win. But like, it's like obvious that teams like 2019 G2 are the best team in the West for the last 10 years almost, because not because they were best players in their role, just because they had something special as a team,
Yeah.
as people, right? They were thinking outside the box, and they all are really good friends to this day still, I think. So I think that team building or roster building is more than just the best players. It's about understanding what your team needs. Obviously, if you have Soas top and xPeke mid, your AD carry has to be the fucking carry of that team. Obviously, that might not have been the thought process at the time. This is how it turned out, but it made sense on paper to have a hard AD carry in that team.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what I was going to ask is because when you say that, originally I just think about the Cloud9 rosters, because the Cloud9 rosters that you had a ton of success on, it felt like that is kind of how the rosters were built, where it was just like the best players slotted into
yeah, but
the best
they didn't start
roles.
that way, right? So like in 2020, I joined C9 after 2 disaster years in TSM. I commented the team. I thought that team actually was really built well because Blabber, as it turns out, is very good with high resources. Niski is the opposite. He is good on low resources, and he's a very selfless player and a very good teammate too. And that was why that team was so good, because Licorice and Niski are both, or were both, very low resource players. And Blabber could just full clear over and over again, or play how he wanted to play. Me and Vulcan were the best ball in those years at the time. But I was not a low resource player at the time at all. I was carrying every game on a Phils and Senna. That's why our team made sense. And then building forward, we changed small things here and there. Changed top lane for Fudge, because Fudge was stomping Academy at the time. He was young and motivated, we thought. And we had some trouble with Licorice not fitting the team as well, we thought. And then we want to change mid because Niski just didn't have the carry potential. But I think, looking back at it, Niski actually fit the team quite well. What we needed was a different top laner, more than anything. Niski's a player that fits in a lot of teams, but his side laners have to be carries, or Jung has to be carried to fit in well. Some people like Niski, Doinby, Kuro, Crown, they need either a side laner like Nuguri that, can fucking carry, or a bot laner that can 1v9. Like Ruler with Crown, for example, right? This is why those teams were so good, because they had a good mix of these things. You can't have 5 carries or 5 Kuros in a team, or 5 Crowns or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I think we made a mistake by getting both Perks and Fudge in 21. I love Perks. He's like one of my goats, one of my best friends esports. I was playing Dookie with him actually 2 hours ago, season 14.
Okay, nice.
But I don't think that Perks, me, and Fudge and Blabber was like a good 4-man carries, right? I don't think that made that much sense thinking back at it now. And then moving forward, the whole Korea C9 thing, I wasn't part of that. It's a messed up story how that all happened. But I played support in 2022, and it's true that in 2022 we had Berserker, and he was like the best player in his role. But we didn't build for all these things. I don't think we had much. I didn't have much to say in these how these things were built, so I can't really speak for that. But I think in 2020 our team made the most sense. If you look at it again, right? We had a high resource jungler and AD carry with a selfless mid laner and top laner, and that's why our team was so good. We had different issues in summer that made us not, go to Worlds, which is outside the game things.
For sure.
But yeah,
I think my point was more about how the roster was built, because it doesn't seem like that was the intention of the roster. Like Niski at the time was, one of the best mid laners in LCS, and it felt like the way that the roster was built was that get the best players that we can all the time. It feels like this has just been the prevailing sentiment.
It is true. Yeah, I think a lot of time people put players in a ranking and just pick the one that's highest on the ladder that they can.
Yeah.
People will always pick, the JoJo style player over Niski, but Niski's won more trophies.
Yep.
And I think that still to this day, a lot of GMs don't understand how to create a good team, because most GMs or coaches just pick the better player, or the higher ranked player, so to speak, instead of understanding what do I have in my team.
Yeah, what type of player do I need in my team? Makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask you about how you are in teams, because we had Blabber on recently, right? And he said that when he first started playing with you in 2020, I mean, he'd been on Cloud9 before, even as a sub, and the team was always really friendly. Everyone is really calm, happy. And he said that when he had you and Perks on the same team, it was just a mega European team. He said the first time he played with you, he was like, "Is this guy gonna fucking kill me? He's 6'5", he's yelling at me, like am I gonna fucking die today?" These are his literal exact words. And I wanted to just throw that to you and be like, what is your interpretation of working with Blabber back then, or how are you within a team? Because it seems like you are kind of an enforcer in a way in the teams that you're in.
I will say that yes, it's true. I'm European, so I have an accent. I'm 6'5" or 2 meters, and I'm very European in the sense that I'm straight to the point. I don't bullshit people. I don't try to cuddle people, which is something I had an issue with because different people take feedback differently. But I would tell someone I think you fucked up here, or I think you are bad as champion. And some people don't like that, and some people do. In EU, people will just fist fight all the time. In Origen, in G2, people will just be you're fucking trash. You fucked up the game. Lost because of you. And people didn't care about it. Some people did, some people don't, right? But I realized in TSM and C9 that that's like not how people want to be spoken to. And that was what I had in TSM and C9 is I came across as aggressive when I wasn't trying to be. Some people thought I was passive aggressive at times, which is something I hate when people are. So I really felt I was like a bit misunderstood at times. But
Did
I
you ever
think that
want to kill Blabber? Did he ever like just ruin the game? You just actually wanted to kill him,
I
or
mean, Blabber has ruined games. So have I.
yeah.
I never want to kill him.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah.
that's good. Hey, you didn't
Now,
want to
now,
kill
we
his
have,
friend there. Nice.
now, now we have to get that out of the way. I think when people know me, they know that I'm not trying to be aggressive or a dick to people. I'm just European, to be honest. I have more filter than some people like Bippo or Inspired, but less filter than some American players that are like a bit conflict shy, in my opinion, a bit afraid to step on someone's toes. I think a good balance is good, where you can tell people straight up what you think, but you can phrase it in a way where you don't hurt someone's feelings unnecessarily. I think that's the best way to be. I'm a little bit too far on the straight to the point side.
Yeah.
I'm passionate, I work hard, and I hate when other people don't do the same. You know, it's
Mm.
like nothing would piss me off more than like someone that doesn't play enough solo queue or like doesn't try hard in the scrims and has like a lax attitude, like yeah, whatever, bro. It's just a game, you know, like that shit I really hated. But I think Blabber was just used to like a different environment than I was, and then we clashed. But I think Blabber as someone I never had issues with, like in that sense. So I understand what he's saying though. But like I always want to say my piece in reviews. I always want to say my opinion. I'm a bit stubborn. I think all pro players are. I have some ego, of course. We all do. When you've won something, you gain more ego. But I think beneath it all, I'm just really fucking passionate, and I really want to fucking win. And every second we're scrimming, I'm trying for my fucking life to win. And I hate losing. I get really mad when I fuck up myself. And some people see it as like tilt or frustration, which is true. I had some issues around like C9 2021 with like we had a lot of arguments in the team between Mithy and I, Perks and I, or Perks and Mithy and other people as well. And it created a lot of tension in the team that year. And I think I mentioned earlier that I thought Mithy, despite being the one of the best players I ever played with and one of the best coaches I've ever worked under, I think he wasn't very good at diffusing the situations in the team back then. He was almost, you know, putting oil in the fire or whatever you say.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we had some issues, but yeah.
So I will say that afterwards he said that you were very good to have like on the team, you know, and he enjoyed playing with you because he thinks that that's actually something that they might have been missing this year, is somebody who's like going to keep the team on the right track. From talking to other players and you know, talking to Yamato, and I've talked to Jisuke a bit, I always compare you to Jisuke in one way, which is like when you're within a team, you're somebody who prevents your team from going down paths of really bad reasoning. Because I feel like a lot of times in teams, people will like overreact to certain like ideas and stuff like that, and they need somebody to just be like the based one that's like, no, like we're just fucking up this, like we just need to get better at this, like they to be
Yeah.
more honest about the feedback. And that can be misconstrued as being toxic, but like in
Yeah.
reality, like it is necessary for a team to have this. So you think that like this is a role that you play within teams, like trying to keep your team like on the correct path towards like what it is to improve, because you have been on so many successful teams, and I feel like you understand what improvement looks like and what type of like ideas, being resistant to ideas that can like corrode the team over time.
I think that in some teams, for example, in CN 2020, right, we got very complacent in 2020 summer after we were like
9-0,
35-2 in that year
35-2. Yep.
overall. Yeah, 9-0 in summer.
Mhm.
And I felt like towards the end, I was being kind of toxic to people because I started realizing the path we were on. And it made me feel really bad because I felt like it was someone else's job to do that. You know, the coaches, for example, to be the bad guy, not me. And that's why after 2020, I was almost kicked from C9 because some people thought I was toxic. But in reality, I just felt like I was misunderstood a little bit, or maybe I was a little bit too passionate, perhaps, because I didn't want to miss Worlds, which we did. And then the big problem was that the next year, C9 2021 was on the same path. We had a lot of arguments, Mebdi and I, in spring, Perks and I, Vulcan and Perks, Mebdi and Perks, and it was a very like intense atmosphere, I guess, where like you feel like at any point there could be a big argument that could ruin the whole day or like, cause some tension. Then we went to MSI and I got benched. And I didn't really know about this until it happened. I didn't get any warnings. I didn't get told like, hey, your teammates feel this way about you. If you don't stop doing this or that, then you will get benched. Just after MSI, Jack took me outside, you know,
Took you out back.
took me out back and ended my life right there on the
Yeah.
spot. And I felt like
Put you
my whole
down.
world collapsed when he told me I was benched. I was like, what the fuck? I was like so fucking sad when that happened, and I realized my ways weren't so good. And I went to academy for about 3 weeks to work on my delivery of feedback because look, in the past I always mocked people like Forgiven or Self-Made or like people that get this rep of being toxic and therefore they can't be in teams. I think that's the stupid thing you can do to your career. It's like being banned like Mythic Nuke or like being banished from the LAC because you're toxic like Forgiven, right? Right?
Yeah, getting banned is just so fucking
To
stupid. Like anyone who does that is
yes,
just cringe, I think, for
I
sure.
agree.
Yeah.
To waste that much potential is stupid. But
Yep.
then in that moment, I got benched for being toxic. Let's just say that, right? I think it was a misunderstanding, honestly, but it really made me feel like shit. So that year was tough because then in summer, we were not gonna make Worlds. We were best team in spring, went to MSI, and like my theory is that if you go to MSI back in the one team per region format, and you don't have a big team implosion, you will always come back as the best team in your league because you're the best team when you left, and now you played scrims and stage games against the best in the world. So you improved while everyone else didn't, right? But then we had an implosion. I was benched for 4 weeks, and that year the record from spring carried over to summer and
Yep.
went being first place to like or something, I don't know, when I came back. But we wasted like a whole month of practice where I didn't play in the main team, right?
Yep.
And it felt like we never actually resolved the conflicts and the issues we had. We just swept it under the rug. And then as we were nearing playoffs and the gauntlet, it didn't look like we were gonna make worlds. And I felt like that year from last year, 2020, was repeating itself again. And if we didn't make worlds in 2021, that would have been my fourth year in a row not making worlds. After making worlds 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So things started to get really fucking intense in the team because I feel like our staff wasn't doing what they had to do. Mitty and Rainover and what was his face? Rapid Star, Mr. Useful.
Mr. Useful. What is okay? We gotta unpack that. Like this
Mr.
guy was just
Useful is
useless or what?
yeah. Let's just say that.
Okay.
He wasn't there actually in 2021. He was there in 2020. So he took a random. He got a random spray right there.
Okay.
But anyways,
We just want to call him out. Rapid Star, you're
yeah,
useless. You do
yeah,
nothing. You have no
yeah.
yeah. You have no
Um,
ambitions.
Those
Okay.
Reddit posts.
Nice.
anyways, I felt like in that summer split, the same pattern we had in 2020 was happening, and we were not on a trajectory to make worlds in summer 21. And if I didn't say something, nothing was going to happen, I felt like.
Hmm.
And this caused a lot of tension between like me and Perks that summer split. Um, Canceled scrims, like I remember being outside at some point, I said something to him that made both him and myself upset, and it felt like for a big part of my career in NA at first, I wanted to say things that the team needed to hear, but doing it made me feel like the bad guy, you know?
Hmm.
But if I didn't say it, we would lose, and then you will feel even worse because that way you will have regrets. That's how I felt in TSM. In TSM, I felt like at the end of every year, the only thing I felt was regret. Like I could told this guy to do this better, or I could told this guy to cut the shit and be better in scrims, or I could told this guy to be better like this. Or I could work harder myself on this. So in C9, I promised myself I would have no regrets at the end of my years. I would just fucking say it how it is, and at least we'll win. And if I have to be the bad guy, I'm bad guy. Because I think in TSM we weren't coached very well. I don't think that Song, well, good coach, but didn't fit the team. Korean coach in a team with 0 Korean players, not the way to go. I think.
Yeah.
It's like not a head coach at least. And 19, I don't think Six and Goldman were very good either. They were not leaders of the team, which we needed. But the point I was trying to make was that I didn't want to have regrets ever again after those 2 years. But things I could have done better, things I could have said. So I was just fucking saying it every year, what I wanted to say. But then it made me feel like the bad guy because everyone didn't like me when it came to the game stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like people thought I was toxic thing and these kind of things. And it's true, I was at times. But I feel like I had to do it for us to make worlds, you know? But Perks was at the time one of my best friends in esports. I went to his wedding, you know, a year later or 2 years later, right? I flew across the whole globe to go to his wedding, and like I love the guy, and I always will. I think he's my goat of the West for many reasons, right? That had nothing to do with the game.
Mhm.
So for me to have to say things to him and the team that made him feel that way, made me feel that way, was tough mentally, right? So that year was like tough for everyone involved. I think. Yeah.
I would say that this would come from the purest place, right? Because your intention was always like correct. And to be fair, the 2021, I like looking from outside, I thought that Cloud9 year was rather successful. Like,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, we won one
considering,
split and made
Made
Worlds
it.
quarterfinals, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
But yeah, I think we could have been so much better if we had just talked more to each other about the issues that I had with them because I also had issues. I felt like it's a way too long story to talk about here at this point of the show. But we just had so many issues with each other, and it wasn't just me, you know. It was also like Mebdi and Perks or Mebdi and Vulcan had an argument before we played Genji, and it just felt like the whole team could have used.
Is this the one in the restaurant? We heard about
Oh, you
an
heard about that
argument.
one before?
That's what Blabber brought up. He said there was one in a restaurant where you guys were like people were like looking at you guys. It was like there was an argument that was going on in public, like and he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just like embarrassed.
I mean, I don't think it's like that big of a deal anymore, so I don't mind saying it. But like
Sure.
me, Perks, Mitty, and Vulcan are eating lunch in Iceland. This is the hotel where we're downstairs. There's a lot of people in the lobby we're eating at, and this is after mid quarters. It's Genji we're playing against, and we're having an argument about how Ruler is the goat, so we have to like ban him out. Is Mitty's trying to say. But basically, Mithy is just glazing Ruler really fucking hard the whole time. And as a
Okay.
bot lane, you don't want to hear the enemy AD carry or support being glazed too much because it gives you like bad confidence, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember the gist of the argument anymore, but Vulcan says something to Mithy about stop fucking glazing him, essentially, right? In different words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then an argument happens, and it becomes a really bad argument really quickly, like insult slinging, you know, like bad vibes argument. You know what is
Yeah.
bad? There's argument and there's like a bad argument where people are like, what
It's
the
like, oh, this
fuck?
is super unproductive. Like this
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
destroying the
And then
team.
Perks is like, he eats his fucking wedding creme brulee, right? It's dessert, lunch, and he stands up. All right, guys, I'll see you in the room. And he just leaves. It's like he was not even bothered by the argument or like surprised or shocked by it. He's just like, ah, fuck this, I'm out. And I sat there like this, you know, Mitty over here, Vulcan over here, and I'm like, shit. And it was like we had a lot of those. Um, and it just caused a lot of tension in the team. But that moment wasn't that big of a deal. But there was many other moments like that that just caused a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
That I think,
But
you know,
this was the whole point of the story that Blabber was telling, was he was trying to say that like Vulcan is essentially a European. He's French Canadian. He essentially
yes,
like
I
functions
agree.
as a European. Then
Yep,
as
I
you,
agree.
you're European, Mythy European, Perks European. So he's sitting there like seeing, or maybe he said he wasn't like he heard about this argument or he was somewhere else. Maybe he was with you guys, but he's like
Yep.
to him this was fucking crazy. It's like, is the team? Are we gonna disband the team? Like what's actually fucking happening? Are people getting kicked from the team? Like well, this is actually an insane thing to have happen. Like we just had a falling out in a public place. But to you
Yeah,
guys, yeah, Perks just like leaves the table. He's like, all right, I'll see you guys in the room. And then you're just sitting
yeah.
there just like quietly. Like it wasn't a big deal to you.
I mean, it was a big deal that year to me because it didn't feel the same as it did when I was in G2 in 16, 17. people just change. But like the vibes we had in 15, 16, 17 were like people could say the toughest things, the harshest way possible, and the other guy would understand, either consciously or not, that it came from a place of passion. You know, like I remember this one argument in Origin where we were playing scrims, we lose a game, and this was back when people started reviewing on the coach PC. The first time this happened, you know, like the first couple of months. And Mebdi and I, Peke and Maurice walked to the PC to review behind the coach on his PC. So as L taps on TeamSpeak, mutes, and starts watching like a TV show or something.
Mhm.
And then Mebdi could just say, "Hey, Soas, come review with us." But instead, he gives him the most sarcastic, passive-aggressive combo he can possibly think of. Something about how we're all paid the same, so I won't work harder than anyone else. If Soas wants to be a little fucking baby, I won't go there myself, you know.
Okay.
And then Soas explodes, obviously, because he's been talked like he's a fucking child, which might have been deserved for what he did, but whatever. And he walks up to Mithy, and he's like this in his face, you know, like fucking like, you wanna fucking fight, bro? And then Mithy screams, "Yeah, fuck, hit me, bro!" You know, and they're both fully red in their faces. And then it ends up with Soas walking past him and like slams the fucking plastic IKEA table we have and making like
a recurring
small,
problem in Soaz's career.
he
is
makes like a
foreshadowing
he
at
makes
this
like a
point in the
hole
story.
in the table, you know,
Yeah.
and he leaves, and we don't hear from him in the next 20 hours. We just cancel the scrim on the spot, and next day, 3 p.m. was scrim time back then in the EU. I see Soas comes to PC, I see Mitty is on the PC, and we just played like nothing happened. But that argument that they had led to no one else ever again not being part of the review. So my point overall was that no matter how badly something was said, the point of the argument always went through to the other person, because that person understood that it came from a place of passion, a desire to win, so to speak. Like, Soas understood that Mithy valued the reviews as a support player, and therefore he came to a review after that because he respected that desire to win that Mithy had. You know, so even though we had like a 24-hour like no talk situation going on, both players understood each other at the end of it. And that's
I love
we
that
didn't
shit,
really
man.
have that in C9. It was not like that. It was more like just arguments that left both parties feeling like they had no closure.
Yep.
And then you feel like your personal relationship to that person is worse afterwards. While in the best teams, you can always separate the two from each other, right? So that's why C9 was a bit tough at times. But I think that the more I work with people like Blabber, the more he understands me that I'm not trying to be aggressive or passive aggressive and in any way possible, right? I just spit it how it is. And Blabber gets that, which is why I think he understood me more in 22 summer and 23 the whole year when I play as support. Is that he just knows me better at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like the last thing to talk about, something that you've been asked before, but hopefully we can get a different answer, more in depth, is your transition back to AD carry, because most people have heard the answer of like, oh, I just wanted to play AD carry again. The only support I wanted to play for was Berserker, right? Like they
Yeah.
understand this. But from my perspective, I would think that it would be something kind of scary to go back to a role like AD carry after playing support. For you, did you think it would be any problem? Did you think that your mechanics would like be good enough instantly? How did you view this transition? Because a lot of people thought it was a really risky move to go back to AD carry after you had developed all this value as support.
Yeah, so when I started, so after 23 Worlds, Berserker and I just had a lot of disagreements about how to play the game. I felt like at first, when I played with him, he would always respect my opinion a lot and do what I said. But at the end of 23, it felt like he stopped listening to me. It felt like we were no longer a duo lane because he wanted to play his own way, which is fine. I get that. So we wouldn't be a duo anymore. I felt that that was going to happen no matter what the outcome of Worlds was in 23. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not playing fucking support for anyone else in the LCS. I don't think anyone else is good enough. I didn't think Jan was very good at the time. Well, he wasn't, for what it's worth. Master wasn't a thing yet. I didn't think, like, who else was there? FBI beat me in the summer finals when I was playing support.
Yep.
Sure, he's good. I have respect for FBI. He beat me
That
in
seems hard to
21.
say. Like I respect
No,
for
it's
FBI.
just I have a speaking problem. I can't say words like respect very easily. So I have to like
Oh no, I thought it was
actually
something like
no.
underlying where
Like
you're like, I respect him, bro.
I
Like
have to like spend a second or two like priming the word in my mouth before I can say like respect.
oh
It's
nice,
hard
I
for me.
just made fun of you for having a
Yeah.
speech problem live
Yeah,
on
yeah.
podcast. This is
No,
gonna go well.
no
I'm just a piece
problem.
of shit now.
But yeah, like
Perfect.
I respect FBI. He's good, but is he so good that I would play a role I don't want to play for him? No. So I said, okay, I'll go back. Because I actually never really wanted to play support in the first place. I just did it because some things happened in the 22 off season that made me not play in spring. And then in summer of 22, my options were playing a trash team or play support in C9. And I thought, best chance to win LCS and go to Worlds is in C9 and support player. And the worst case, I will just go back to AD carry next year. Fine, whatever, right? One split wasted, whatever. Then we won the split. My first split of support, we won. And went to Worlds, and it was disaster. But it was disaster for everyone else at Worlds too. It's just the West versus the East these days.
Yeah.
So I
That
said,
was like the
fuck it.
3-15 worlds where like the NA teams want to combine 3-15.
Yeah, and EU had like one team in quarterfinals that got stomped to the pavement in quarters
JDG.
3-0 by
Yep.
JG or Top Esports. I can't remember.
JDG. Top
Bro.
Yeah.
Esports crashed out of that worlds.
Oh
They
yeah,
that was
they
the
only made quarters because Top Esports lost to GAM or like
yeah
some other.
Levi
Yeah.
Karthus, and there was
The
like the
mob
mob
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
There was like the
yeah,
mob run
exactly.
for Jakulov and stuff like
That was
this.
the classic like losing groups or good quarterfinals and get 3-0'd.
Yep.
So I didn't think much of it. It was like fine, right? I think I played okay that Worlds. I was like not great, but I was not bad either. So going to 2023, I was like, well, shit. I can win the LCS again with C9. I think we have a good roster. I think so at least. We had different ideas for mid laners that year. I wanted something else than what we got, but I think Diplex and Eminence was a good combo, to be honest. Eminence is supposed to be like really skilled but a bit toxic. I thought as long as we have a guy who's the opposite of him in academy, it can work. But for the question of me was that I just simply thought I could win easier by playing support than by playing ADC. So I chose to stick with it. And I also liked how it was. I liked the chemistry between Berserker and I. We would always talk about lane phase after every game. Talk about macro, talk about laning, champions, items. And Berserker is a very opposite of me. He's very quiet, doesn't talk a lot, both in game and out the game. Never gets tilted, no matter what. Never gets frustrated, no emotions. So him and I actually bounce off each other as perfectly because of this. So I liked to work with him a lot. And I said, fuck it, let's go for it again. But 23 Worlds, we had a lot of falling out as a duo. And I said, like I said, I don't want to play support for like Jan or FBI or whoever Masu is. At the time, I had no idea who he was or how good he was. So I said, no, fuck that. Not gonna be part of this shit. So I said, I'll play ADC. I had some offers from different teams, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. I feel like the teams I talked to had different visions of the game than I did. There was a lot of roster builds that I didn't like. So I said, fuck it, I'll take a break. I'll go to Korea in spring for a month. I hit Challenger. I hit Challenger in EU first, then in Korea, and then in A as ADC to prove people I still had it in me. Then I showed up on broadcast in LCS to show people I'm still there. And then I asked C9 if I could stay in one of their houses for free coaching, just to watch their scrims and be a part of the pro process still. And they said yes, which I'm very grateful for still to this day that they let me stay in their house for free, right? Just to watch some scrims here and there. And I got to watch, Mebdi as a coach in C9, like see the game from a different perspective, which was very enlightening. But yeah, I always felt like support wasn't my role. I just did it to win, because winning is the most important thing that
Yeah.
is, right? Whatever it takes to win. But Worlds 23 ended so poorly for me that I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want it. And then the most important thing of all these things is that I didn't feel like my ADC career ended how I wanted it to end. And if I kept playing support, I would always have in the back of my head this regretful feeling that what if I kept playing A to C? Would I have won in like EG, or would I have gone to like TL or something? You know, after the Hansama thing failed, or
Mhm.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I couldn't live with that potential regret because when I was playing in TSM and in 18-19, I had so many regrets and I hated how it ate at me, right? So I said, no more regrets. Just fucking send it, play A to
Yeah.
C again. And if you go to fucking Dignitas and you finish 4th place or 5th place, then so be it. No
Yeah.
regrets.
Yeah.
Because at least
Do
this
you
way, yeah.
I was gonna say, do you draw a lot from like solo queue? Because you seem like you're one of like the biggest grinders I've ever seen when it comes to just playing the game. Was this like one of the main reasons why you're like, of course I still have it, like going to Korea, going challenger in EU, then going to Korea, hitting challenger? Was this like big for you to, feel like you were ready?
I don't think that, hitting 1 KLP in EU, then Korea, then NA is like that big of a deal.
Mhm.
I think in Korea it matters. I think Korean solo queue is actually good practice. Once you get past the solo queue part and get into like you have 6 to 8 pro players every game, right? Once you're 1 KLP in Korea. If you play solo queue in Korea, over 1,000 LP at midnight until 3 a.m., there's 10 pro players in every game. 10 pro players that are like academy players who are sweating for their fucking lives to get a real team in LCK. Or Chinese pro players, or like even from Vietnam and stuff like that, So that's good practice. But it's more about, do I have the drive to go on a solo bootcamp in Korea in February to prove that I still have it? That's more what it's about for me. Do I still have the motivation to grind all these games and show everyone, and most importantly myself, that I can still do it, and I still think that I can do it. I often real myself when I play support. I didn't mention this before actually, but it's actually an important part. When I played in C9 2023 during our Worlds Bootcamp, we had a scrim block or scrim week where we scrimmed KT, Genji, and T1 3 days in a row. Those 3 teams.
Did you win
And
a
when
game?
we won like 2 games against both Genji and T1, and we got
Damn,
0-8 and went 0-8 against KT, who had Lehens at the time.
that's good though. That's like a good scrim block from what I've heard.
It's okay, yeah, it can be better. 2-4 is
Okay.
decent, yeah,
Okay.
but it didn't feel like I was playing the same game as Lehens was. When I was playing against T1 and we were playing like Jin Karma against Kate Lux, I was playing the game. We were actually winning lane sometimes. But then when we played something like Alistar versus Nautilus, or like I played versus Lehens, this one game, he played Leona. Level 2, he hits Berserker with an E, and lane is over. Then he runs out jungle, fucks Blabber. Then he dives on mid laner, who's playing Cassidy or something useless, right? Gets dove. Then he runs top and dives Fudge in a 1-for-1. Runs back with home guards. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's my AD carry made one mistake, and this guy carried the whole game in 3 minutes of gameplay. And we had to like FF for 5 minutes and then ask for remake. But that whole like 3 days in a row, I just felt like I wasn't playing the same game as Kyria, Lehens, and who was that? Delight were
Mhm.
playing. Sure, I could play lane phase on like range time, especially. I was actually good in lane phase. That was the year where like, you could play like Ashe and like
People like,
Karma and stuff.
yeah, and like Senna showed up later on. Like people were playing Senna
Yeah,
into Ash and stuff
but
like
at
this.
first we had the very close-minded idea that we should play meta supports only because
Mhm.
that's what we created. Obviously, at the end of the tournament, everyone played range supports every game, but I was not being utilized to my full potential. But the point was still that even when I played against like T1 on stage, I didn't feel like I was doing as much as I could. And I didn't feel like when I looked at the minimap that I could see the whole game in front of me the same way I could when I play AD carry. When I play AD carry, I can look at the map, right? And I can tell you who's in the wrong spot and why, and where I should be and why. When I play support, I could play like Bard, and I would not be able to look at top lane and mid lane and figure out where should I go to have the most impact on the game. I just simply couldn't have the same influence in the game that I saw like the Light or Lehens have. Of course, if you're playing in a better team, it's easy to play support. Support and jungle are the most team like
Dependent.
not dependent, but like if your team is really good, support's easy to play. When everyone's giving a lot of information, you have winning lanes, it's easy to make decisions for yourself when your team is better, right?
Mhm.
So dependent in some ways, yeah. But I just felt like I could never be as good as they were in that year. And those 3 scrim games were like the eye opener. I was like, wow, we won 4 games out of like what 20 something games, and every game like Lehens was 1v9 every game.
Just
Sure,
like we should
we,
clickbait this. Like Lehens was so good, I had to retire from the support role, something
I
like this.
mean, not only him, but it was just like we got rolled top and mid and jungle as well. You know, I'm not saying like it was only him, but I looked at the games and I felt like he's just doing so much more than I am with less, or like he makes a big deal of a small situation, and I couldn't do that. So I felt like I would never be truly world class as a support player. But when I played ADC, I often thought, yeah, at Worlds 15, for example, long time ago, I know, but I didn't feel for 1 second that the guy who beat me was better than me. I still don't think to this day that was the case. You know, sure, like these days, you know, like my last 80 carry Worlds was like 21. I lost to Ruler. Yeah, he was better than me. I can admit that, right? But I still think I can compete, and that belief in yourself is the most important thing to have as a pro player. And as support, I didn't think I could compete at their level, so that was a big part of it as well.
You know, there is, you know, now we've been talking for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it's time to round off in a way, because like in my mind, I think we could carry on talking about so
Yeah.
many
I fucking
things,
love
Yeah.
League,
because
bro.
like in
Yeah,
terms
same.
of your career, I think that you are very underappreciated, because it's like you're running Europe finals, win, MSI second place,
Yeah,
and
5 in a
then
row.
like you have won like splits on fucking, like you have won as support, you've won as AD carry in North America, you've won on 2 continents. You have such a vast amount of experience in terms of hearing how candid you are in terms of, you know, where you are at right now is very, very inspiring. The fact that you still have the drive and you're still longing for the victory again, I think is extremely impressive. The main thing I wanted to round off with just a very simple question, because this is something that sometimes comes up. And you, there was this moment where you said, "Me, the goat." In terms of where you measure yourself in terms of Western AD carries, I think the other 2 names would be like Reckless and Doublelift, right? Where do you place yourself in terms of your career and what you have achieved?
Well, when I was playing in EU, I felt that only Reckless and Forgiven were good enough to be on my level, but Forgiven never won anything, and he was too stupid in many ways to make it far enough to be in the GOAT conversation. Reckless has 3 or 4 titles, I think.
Yeah. I think it's 4.
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
made
did this
Worlds
recently.
finals over me, while I made like MSI finals, and World semis.
Mm.
So I think it's close, but I won more titles elsewhere. I won 4 in NA in different roles. First player ever to win NA and EU. So I think it's up there. Um, Definitely someone that when I started playing, I was looking up to Reckless because he was the first AD carry I watched where he was always able to replicate the same result in every game, which was never dying and always having high CS, and then using that CS to carry in teamfights. The most consistent player I watched at a time. Whereas before that, I watched Sneak and Double Lift at, what's it called? Something in season 4, something national.
Battle of the
Remember?
Atlantic.
Yeah, Reckless played against Sneaky, and I thought, holy shit, these guys are good, but different. And then later years, I thought Double Lift was way better than Sneaky when I played against them both in the NA LCS. I think Double Lift is kind of held back by he's a bit stubborn, I think. He's got a bit of a narrow mind on the game, but that comes from him always being the carry in his team. I think we're all up there for different reasons. I think I have more national success than Double Lift. I have more titles than Reckless, but Double Lift has more titles in NA than I do, and he beat me. He won like 5 titles while he was playing against me. Obviously, I won a couple bits too while he was playing, but I think there's arguments for all of us to be made. Uh, so it's hard to debate. It just depends what you think matters the most. You
I
know,
think that makes sense. Yeah. No, for
Regulus
sure.
made Worlds Finals. Doubles made like 8 titles or something like in total. I have 7 in total across both regions, so it's different. But yeah, I think
Okay.
it's funny because those two guys were two guys that I looked up to different times in my career. When it was like 2012 something, I would go home from school and I would type clgaming.net in my search bar, and I would watch like Hotshot.gg and Double Lift stream back in the days before Twitch, right? And I was a big fan of Hotshot.gg back in those days.
Yep.
And then in season 4, when I started playing high level League, I watched Reckless's VODs and I was like, this guy always has 0 deaths in every game, never makes any mistakes, and always has a lot of CS, no matter how bad his teammates are, and always did a lot of damage in team fights. So I kind of built my playstyle around these people. And at some point around like summer 2015, I had my own style that was an in-betweener of the two. And I also learned from Forgiven, who was someone that pushes you really hard. Like he always, he talked his shit to you, and he was like a good laner, whereas Reckless was more of a defensive laner. So with Forgiven, you had to play better in lane. He was always fighting you on every creep, and he was talking shit to you, saying like, "You can't 2v2, you guys are fucking trash." And I think having those two guys in EU, Forgiven and Reckless, would be better. So I appreciate those two guys for being there when I was there, because if you don't have any competition like Double Lift did for most of his career, besides Sneaky, you just can't get that much better.
Yep.
But yeah,
No, for sure.
I
No,
appreciate the glaze though, Yamato. I
no,
appreciate
bro.
that.
I just
Put him in
I
the
truly
Western
believe
GOAT
you are very
conversation.
underappreciated as
But
a player. Like,
I think
your career is fucking fantastic, truly.
I appreciate that. But I think
And
in terms of goats, I'm only in the competition in my own role. I think the Western goats, people will say Caps, and I understand why, and I agree, because ever since 2018 or 19, the team with Caps wins, and teams without Caps don't. If they do win, it's only once or twice, like Mad Lions. So I understand why. But for me, it's always going to be Perks, because Perks is so much more than a player. He makes a lot of shit happen outside the game, and he was a great, great person outside the game. And he's the only person I think in LoL esports in the Western scene that will make like 20 different players fly across the whole world to be at his wedding, because he's like a networker in a way. Like
Definitely.
he made teams like 2016 G2 happen. We won 3 in a row. That team. We went to MSI finals, right? He was one of the only people where I would tell him we can win worlds one day, and he wouldn't like laugh or think it's silly. He believed it, like I did,
Yeah.
that we could win worlds one day. And then we went to MSI finals, and sure, we lost 3-1 to T1 or SKT, but like we both always believed that one day we will win worlds. And he made teams like that G2 team happen, or he took like probably like the biggest risk of any player. He was like peaking in 18, right? Perks, when he
Yep.
carried
yeah,
you to
yeah, that
World
was the
Semis.
best
Yeah.
Western
Like
performance of
he
all
carried
time. Like, the
a
LeBlanc
couple
game.
of deadweight
Yeah. The
players.
LeBlanc game was insane.
Yes, he carried a bunch of deadweight players to World Semis.
Bunch of
And the
dead weight
next,
players.
I mean,
He did.
look,
What did it?
Yarn
Yarden.
and
Yarden
Madrid were
what
not
did?
bad players, but that year they were. They were
Yeah.
playing like
Heimer
like
support,
the
like Heimer
Heimer
AD
With
and
no
like
fucking
and
easy
trying
Ming,
to
that's for
their
sure.
whole thing was just don't int and you will get carried. And then next year, after having that performance, you would think, okay, just keep playing mid and then get a better ball lane, and you will make 2 good teams in EU, right? EU would have both caps and perks, but instead he makes his team in his org, the org he's been in his whole career, the org that he came up from Challenge Series with 2 LCS, and he plays ADC just to have caps on his team because he realized that guy might be better than me. And he even told him, if it comes to it, I will leave the team, not you. That's what happened later on, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then they created their own meta that year. They created like this Zoe bot lane. They like previously
Yasuo
people
bot lane with
Like
Gragas.
yeah,
top.
people had played like Syndra bot or like Casio. That wasn't that weird. But
Pike
then
Yumi.
this whole Pike Yumi, Mordekaiser to counter Yumi, and like Zed, Zoe, all these kind of champs. Yasuo Gragas was a famous one they played against ST when they won.
Yep.
And they just all this happened because of perks.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't part of the roster building or anything, so I'm speaking for him here, but I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't have happened if he didn't want it to happen.
Yep.
I think if he
Also,
didn't want it to happen, it would stay in G2 and they would have kept Caps and Fnatic, right? So
like another argument for perks, right, in this conversation is the like G2 made the improvement on paper to not the improvement on paper, but it's like Reckless and Hilly came off of insane worlds. They brought in Reckless, and then the team that basically had the 4 players didn't function at all. That just we beat them right with Whippo playing jungle. They didn't go to Worlds, and that was like in like the 2 years
I remember
following. Caps won one split, and that was the spring split, right, with Targamas and BB. And in the end, this was a team that like somewhere along the line, like it was very clear that Perks left a void. If you want to make like that assessment from outside, of course.
I mean, and even
Perks
when
was-
we had BB on an episode of the Sackdown, and pretty much what if you read between the lines, like BB is like the emotional leader of the team. Like he's the one who's doing the speeches. He's the one who's like trying to get the people together. He's the one that's going to be like, yeah, guys, we can win. Like we can actually like win worlds. Like he's the one that has that. And I feel like Caps is the best player that we've ever had. He's like the Western GOAT because he's the best player that's ever been in the West. But I do think that Perks was instrumental to the success of all these teams because he does seem like he embodies the qualities of what a true leader is when it comes to like a team.
Yeah, I think he's definitely like the biggest outside the game leader, like not even outside the game, outside the season leader, like in creating teams and creating environments with people he liked to make a team that beat the best team of all time, SKT, and make World's Finals, right? And they won MSI as well, which is the biggest accomplishment of the West in the last 10 years, maybe even more, right?
Ever.
Yeah, ever probably, right? Some people go back and say like, "Oh, Moscow 5," like, bro, they weren't even playing the same game we're playing now. Like,
I don't know. Them beating Dignitas and IM World Championship Finals is pretty big. They beat some excellent players back then, so I just gotta throw that out. They might be the GOAT.
But yeah, for those reasons, Perks will always be my GOAT.
Why'd both you guys laugh? What the fuck? What the hell? What is this shit?
I just like that we went full circle. We started Dignitas and then we went back to Dignitas.
All roads Dignitas.
Hey, the better Dignitas. We landed at the better Dignitas. That's what matters.
I was about to say, I like playing with Broken Blade a lot too. He was one of the people that I was the most friendly with, or like how do you say, like good friends. We had a lot of good jokes and a lot of good times together in TSM, and I was happy to see him like win in TSM next year.
He said one of the saddest parts about that whole TSM lineup with you was that he didn't get to win a title with you. That like you ended up winning the next year with Cloud9, and then he ended up winning in summer with TSM. But he said one of his biggest regrets is that he didn't actually, or maybe not one of his biggest regrets, but one of the things that he wished happened is that he got to win a title with you. So
yeah,
you guys are homies.
It's mutual. Yeah, we bonded a lot during our time in TSM. I think that I made it a mission for me to like make him feel welcome in NA, because my first year in NA I felt really lonely. So basically in LAC you would play Friday, Saturday, right? And after Saturday matches, you would just go to some bar, like Jakob, the what's it called? The shisha bar. I don't smoke, but I went to the shisha bar. Coco Lounge, it was called.
Coco Lounge,
and you just go there and people would just be there. Every single team would have a couple players, a coach or two, their girlfriends and whatever. And you would just hang out there and have like a social life that way. But in NA, people are a lot more private. They're a lot more like, you have to be part of a certain community, I felt like. So after a year or so, I had more friends there, right? And I made it my mission to bring Broken Blade out more, even though he was underage and shit, right? There's places you can go to in NA despite being underage, and I felt like we bonded a lot during those times, going out together and doing shit together and gymming in the evening and shit, even though we both had no idea what we were doing. So always like some people like that, Niski and C9 or Broken Blade in TSM were like people that I really bonded with well, and great teammate as well. So good.
Brings us back to the Carsey episode. Yamato brings us back to what Carsey said.
What
where
was
Did you hear that, Zven?
Huh?
Bro,
what
he said the way you should do your scouting is like stop doing tryouts. Go out and party with them.
Yeah.
You go out drinking and you see how they act when they get fucked up. and then if you
know
and the night is good, then you know the team is gonna pop.
That was honestly, dude, I wouldn't even be surprised if like that would have a better result than like what TL did to assemble their 2022 roster, or like what C9 did this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, what
Yeah.
else teams did we have in the past that failed?
No, I mean
Like
100%. Like, I mean,
maybe
just
G2 in what was that, 2021, the Reckless.
2021.
Yeah,
Yeah,
10,
like
yeah.
you have two of the Western goats. They could
It
make
is
worlds.
it is pretty OP to like your own teammates. Like when
Yeah.
you actually like your teammates, like you want to just
Yeah,
succeed with them
it
at all
really
costs.
it really is. Yeah, not much to say.
You
It's just
just
how it
fucking
is.
fight harder. If you
I
fight
think
for other people, bro, it's crazy how powerful that could be.
it
Yep.
might be a Western thing where people have a bit too much ego. I mean, me included, right? Whereas in Korea and China, I imagine they're just more like less emotions involved. Almost every team in the West has like massive problems at Worlds, where like the team implodes and the team goes complete boom, and this kind of shit happens. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might
I
might,
can
might be
add
why,
from Korea side. It's like when I came into the team, like in Sandbox, I didn't need to deal with any of like the interpersonal bullshit. It was just like
Yeah.
gameplay because the hierarchy of ages. It was like the
Yeah,
older
yeah,
people
yeah.
took care of the younger guys, and they would be very friendly with each other. It would just be like everyone's culturally like everyone's aligned, and everyone like in terms of where the culture is in terms of how they treat each other was just like
Yeah.
fucking
Fuck, bro. I should
perfect.
go to Korea. People would respect me over there, bro. I would just have infinite respect. It would be so fucking nice.
Wait, I have one last story before we go.
Sure,
Shoot,
let's do
shoot.
it.
In
Perfect.
15, right? After we make quarterfinals, we beat Flash Wolves and we make semifinals, right? And Fnatic is hosting a house party in their like offices or something, right? And Sam Matthews is fucking DJing. But anyways, I'm on the rooftop, right? And I'm sitting on this like couch or bench or whatever. And Keikoma sits next to me randomly and says hello, and nothing happens.
Hey,
Then
coma.
yeah. Oh, Koma. Sorry. Koma.
Hey,
Not
coma.
Keikoma. Sorry. I don't know why. Koma is next to me,
That's
and
too
we don't say
funny.
anything. Then Susie Kim walks by, and I ask her, since I'm drunk, if she would translate for me while I'm talking to Koma. And then I ask her to ask him what would be his biggest piece of advice for someone like me. And he tells me, if you're serious, you should learn Korean and go to Korea.
Oh my
And
god.
that's how he said told me.
Damn.
Damn, that's pretty
Damn.
damn based. That is
I
so
mean, is
damn
it based?
based.
I
I
mean,
thought like maybe something that was more applicable to your current situation instead of just learning Korean. Like, god damn.
just said,
Oh, he also, bro, it was based on my level because he must have fucked you up before you played your semis, bro. Like, he's like, bro, you don't
I mean,
even
I
speak
didn't,
Korean.
I didn't think of it like, but it was just funny that that's what he had to say, like. And then I met him a few years later at MSI finals when we lost to them, and I spoke to him a little bit at the after party there as well. And
He said, "Do you know Korean yet?" No, I'm just kidding.
no, he didn't say that, but it's just a funny little interaction I had with him about what YamatoCannon just said, that like maybe I should have just fucking learned Korean, because I think that they're just built different in Korea, like the way they handle their emotions, and it seems like they have less internal issues than Western teams do. Because almost every year at Worlds, I ask like a friend I had from a different team, "How's it going?" "Yeah, we're completely boom, bro. We scrimmed against T1 Gen GKT and we couldn't brief one game, and we all want to fucking like retire, and everyone's mad at each other and blah blah." So it's like maybe that was the way. Learn Korean and go to Korea.
All right.
Maybe Reckless is onto
Maybe it's not
something.
too late, bro. Maybe it's not too
I
late, bro.
mean, look at
Get
Reckless,
that
bro.
Duolingo
Maybe he
action.
will eventually get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, people think that the learning Mandarin or learning Korean is a joke that I pull when it comes to like Renekton players. It's actually the truth, bro. You need Duolingo. You need Babbel if we get the fucking sponsorship. You need one of these, bro.
Bro, I fucking love this conversation. I feel like we could talk. We need another episode, bro. We have
Yeah,
there's so much more to cover,
I'm
bro.
down. I'm down.
We need
I can yap
another
on League
episode down the line,
forever,
man.
bro. I
Same, bro.
have so much to say. Love League
Bro,
Legends.
that's all I fucking do with my life. That's
Me
literally
too,
all I
bro.
do.
Yeah.
It's just yap about League. So.
I
Bro,
eat,
we've been around the
breathe,
block here,
sleep.
man.
Yeah,
We
we
have
have.
40 years of esports experience here, bro.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, different places too. NA, EU, Korea, coaching,
Yep.
playing, streaming.
Yep. Oh,
Nice,
we've done
nice.
it all. Well, I guess
We're in the
that's where we
devil.
rounded off, bro. It was a good episode. Normally we ask our guests at the end if there's anything they want to talk about, but I feel like you got that last story
We
out,
nailed
you
that,
know.
man.
We'll go on a tangent at that point if I keep talking now.
Yeah, well, it'll be a 4-hour episode if we do that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this episode of the Sack Down, and we'll be back next week with another episode.